to it and get it
Yep.
over with.
I think we'll do that first. Okay, we're going to call the meeting back to order. We have no reportable actions. We're going to have the pledge, but right before we do, I need a quick word with Nick Winslow and Michael Johnson. Just see me right over here a minute.
Oh, okay. I'm glad you know who they are. So this is your summer.
I think we're gonna pull it
In a long one already.
so he wants to tell him that's,
See where these go?
Apparently we have some citizens.
are they the same?
Yes.
Okay, I thought maybe they were the boys. Be nice to have some citizens.
Which is,
That's good.
yeah, it's good that we get somebody from the
Depends
outside
on
for
why
a
they're
change.
here.
It's good no matter why you're here, as long as they're citizens.
C's first, and I think let's do the C's first because these were the. That was the C, right?
Okay,
and
that's
these are
fine.
C, and then
Okay.
he's going to be F also.
It's all good.
So we got three C's.
So who's good at time? That's all I want to know.
There's a, you should have a button for the timer.
Are we
yeah.
using 5 minutes or what? How many
No,
minutes are we?
when we get to this one.
If we don't have, if everyone set at 5 minutes.
We should just do the button timer.
3 minutes on this. 3 minutes.
So let me say again, if I'm calling, you want me to do the time, West, as well?
Can you sit here?
Yeah, just so we, if you want 3 minutes. This is this 5 or 3 minutes?
This is 5, I think.
That's what I thought.
Got to do it with a watch. I got to watch.
Oh, this is going to be too stressful. Absolutely not.
Okay, we're getting organized. We're getting there. It's okay. All right, we're back. Thank you. I was just trying to make sure I've had a few agenda requests, and I'm trying to line them up on the right spot on the agenda. We've done that, so I'm asking Trustee Baum if you'll lead us in the pledge.
Please rise and turn toward the flag. Place your hand on your chest. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey. Dr. Rocha, we're introductions.
Yes, thank you, President Martin. We have, first I'd like to call our colleague Teresa Reed from the Community Education Center, who is going to give us a brief information on an important event coming up. And Teresa, we want to pay great gratitude. Teresa, of course, is our supervisor of our foster care and kinship program, one of our most valuable programs over at the Community Education Center, and also is the, I don't know what the right term is, but supervisor, czarina of all things wellness at PCC. So Teresa, thank you very much for your good work in these areas, and what have you for us tonight?
Well, first, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to make the presentation, and I also wanted to thank Trustee Brown for orchestrating our relationship with the Get Healthy Pasadena event. And this actually is an event that took place on June 8th, and it was a citywide health fair with men educating men. And although the title says Men Educating Men, it really was a health fair that was open for the entire city. And so they've outgrown their previous space, so we're really excited to be able to come here to Pasadena and to be able to partner. And so there's other information that I can have printed for you, but just some quick, colorful sponsorship information. So, should I continue or should I continue?
Teresa, please continue.
Okay. So the focus was really being able to offer some ideal health screenings, more than just having booths and information. There was an opportunity for extensive workshops around health in its general sense. And so just kind of a quick list of presenters. We had the City of Pasadena, Dr. Walsh, and a few others on prostate was a very big issue. So just kind of a quick visual on that. There were over 50 vendors and sponsors available, participating in the event, about 30 actual vendors and booths, and we were one of those booths, as well as the student health sciences also was participating doing blood pressure screenings. So the event, historically, they've serviced maybe about 1,000 people with their screenings and actually being able to do in-the-moment screenings and responses. And so this year, they had over 1,600 people that actually came through the venue, received a variety of screenings. You can see on BMI, cholesterol, bone density, and prostate, again, was a big one. And the piece that we worked with was on energy blockage, really talking about how energy really is the core of a lot of what we do. And so that was 1,600 participants, and for our particular piece with the Journey to Wellness, we had over 40 people that actually came, sat down, did some 15-minute screenings around energy, and that's something that we actually will be looking to do more of here, even on campus. So the event, unlike other health fairs, and why it was really such an exceptional event, was because we were able to do in-the-moment screenings, be able to get results, information at that time. And just a great partnership with lots of people in Pasadena. And one of the things that really is at heart is really wanting to continue to make this a permanent part and ongoing annual event that PCC continues to participate in, with or without the Journey to Wellness project. But it has such a value for the entire campus community as well as the city that we want to continue to participate with it. So that was quick.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. I should also point out while Teresa's at the podium that Teresa was instrumental in working with the foundation with Bobby Abram in making a presentation to the Hutto Patterson Foundation that resulted in a major grant of $50,000 to the college to continue the work with veterans, I believe, and foster care and kinship. So,
Yes. So thank you.
Teresa, thanks a million.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further introductions?
That's what I have.
That's what you have, all right. So we're going to go to public comment on non-agenda items. I've had 3 requests on this particular topic, and we have several on item F when item F comes up, and so we will address those under item F.
Board President
So
Martin.
first, and so these are my pronunciations. I'm losing my better translator here. I think it's Manuel Vargas. And if you'd state your name correctly, I'm really sorry if I missed it. What is it?
You said it correctly, thank you.
Oh, okay.
I'm representing and advocating for my neighborhood as well as for myself. I've been trying to reach Mark Rocha for the past year. Apparently he's been in the meeting for a year. I think I have better luck trying to get some attention from Barack Obama than Mr. Mark here. We have a situation, well, let me begin with this. The community center is doing great things, and that's what I'm here to talk about. I was a student there, I took class from the neighborhood. They're doing great things, but there's also some issues with the community. We have a lot of trash that's being left over from students that are attending the community center on Foothill. It's in multiple yards, as well as mine. There's food containers, beer bottles, roaches from marijuana. There's another issue with parking. They're parking in our neighborhood, taking up our parking space in our community. There's people that are parking in the street with 3 wheels in the street, 1 wheel on the curb. They're parking the wrong way on our streets. They're blocking sidewalks. They're parking on the corners of the intersections, and we have very narrow streets. So that when you're trying to merge into traffic, you have to stick your nose out of your vehicle, and it's kind of dangerous when you're trying to approach the traffic. You can't see with these vehicles parked around the corners. I've been advocating or trying to get some help from the school. I could not get any help. They say it's a city issue. I come here to the community center, and I ask you guys from the board for some help for our community. I really don't want to take the time to get people to go to the city and badmouth the school in front of the city board. But if it takes that, then we'll do it. We're tired of it. We'd like to get some help. The chief here has tried to help with some situations, but he's shorthanded and budget and this and that. And I'm here to ask you guys for help again. There's the parking issue. I don't understand why, the students have to park in our neighborhood if you have a big parking lot over there and it's not even half the lot's full on a daily basis. The disregard for the community is intolerable now. On a daily basis, we're picking up trash from our yards. On the way to work in the morning, you can see all the leftover stuff that's from the community center. I've talked about the parking issue. Also, there's students that are climbing the fence behind the school. There's been a request to put some spikes in the back fence, and I really don't agree with that. I'm afraid somebody might get hurt. I think that more presence from the officers would be something that would be better than putting spikes on a fence for a potential hazard. I mean, I counted about 15 officers here in uniform and cadets that have been chit-chatting for the past hour before this 7 o'clock meeting. And their presence is here, and I don't really see the need for security, that much security here.
You have 30 seconds.
What's that?
You have 30 seconds left. Wrap it
30
up.
seconds? Okay. If you guys would like, I can bring neighbors to come in, both English and non-English speakers, but I hope it doesn't come down to that. You won't have enough seats here. We've got these kids over here, and then we got the neighborhood. Is there any way that you guys can help us, please? I mean, if you guys had trash in your yards, what would you guys do? If you couldn't park in front of your own house all day long, what would you guys do?
Why?
Thank you.
Yeah, why don't you leave your contact information with the secretary here? And I'm sure Dr. Rocha will get it from her. And
Dr. Rocha has my contact information.
Okay, so no, we're not commenting, people. This is public comment. I just close quickly. We appreciate you coming, and what I will do is I'll leave you my contact information, and if you don't hear back from him, you can email me. Okay? So we got to. Okay, I'm going to let Dr. Mann. It's her area.
My district. I'm Dr. Jeanette Mann. This is my district. If you leave your contact information, I will get in touch with you, and will also contact Councilmember Masuda, who represents that district, and we will get this issue
So we
resolved.
appreciate you bringing this. We're not
Thank you for
not here
bringing-
to
thank you
discuss
for
those
bringing it.
things, but between Dr. Mann and Dr. Rocha, if you'll get a reply, you'll get somebody contacting you. Okay. Yes.
A number of years ago, when I was in the Pasadena City Council, not this board, we had a very similar issue around here before parking was constructed, as both you and Dr. Mann will recall quite vividly. And so we were able to work together in that instance with the college and the city, and the problems were taken care of. But it was similar events of that nature too, trash being put in yards and driveways blocked, et cetera. So we can work together collaboratively once again and solve the problem. So thanks for bringing it to our attention.
We appreciate you coming, and between Dr. Rocha and the board, we'll make sure that this gets addressed. Michael Johnson, followed by Nick Winslow. If you'd like, this is public comment on non-agenda items.
Yes, good evening. Again, my name is Michael Johnson. I'm a resident of San Marino and a former city councilman there. The friends and family that have attended PCC, and we're concerned about you have had no contract with the faculty union for over a year, and the issue, I don't see it as specifically on the agenda tonight, but you're getting ready to face it, I assume. You've had your fact-finding report, and in early June, and it indicates that your positions have been substantially affirmed. In general, the trimester calendar has been approved. Of course, you do have that on the agenda tonight, but there's also the faculty gets a salary increase. The faculty fringe benefits stay the same, and students get slightly larger classes, so hopefully more people can progress through PCC quickly. As I understand it, you now have three options. You can impose the final last and best offer. You can impose the Public Employee Retirement Board recommendations, or you can maintain the existing contract. I may not have that exactly right, but I think that's close. I suggest you choose one of these and that you do not go back to further bargaining with the union over these issues. They have pretty well proved that they do not bargain. The faculty's indicated they could go on strike. However, I think that would be against their own best interests. It's also against the students, it's against the education system, and it's against the taxpayers, against the public as a whole. Union president reportedly said, at least in the Los Angeles Times article, that the faculty could legally undertake job actions or sick outs. I don't know if those are necessarily legal things to do, but again, I think that would be against their best interests. And the best thing to do is resolve this issue as quickly and directly as possible. You have the power to do it. I would suggest that it be done. There is an ad that will appear
You have
tomorrow.
30 seconds.
Yes, there's an ad that will appear tomorrow in the Pasadena Star News. I will hand out copies to be distributed to each of you and to some for the audience. I have some of those too, and that's all.
If you leave them with the secretary right there, she'll make sure we all get those.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Nick Winslow.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Don McIntyre. I'm going to go second. I will be brief. As Bill Thompson knows, I'm not prone to be long-winded. I want to start by saying I want to commend the board for having a year of turmoil and difficulty in an organization that has very high marks, in my book at least, as having been around this city a long time, providing service to lots of people with excellent leadership, excellent management, and excellent faculty. It seems to me, however, that as I review the meet and confer process, it seems to me that you've spent a lot of time to comply with the provisions of your meet and confer law, and that you've certainly given the calendar enough time to meet everyone's concerns, and it's now, I think, time for you to act on behalf of your entire institution and to move on with the business of the community. I would say that PCC is a star in the Pasadena crown, and we would like to see it continue with the character that it has developed over the years. As I look at the record for the last year, it seems to me that your union has overreached. That is, they've tried to put into the process issues that are not meant to be there. Understandably, these are emotional issues on both sides. The law was set up to try to rationalize what is otherwise a very emotional exercise. And the longer the process goes, the harder people's positions become, and the more difficult it becomes to get to some sort of consensus. If anyone has a sense that you win in this process, that's a mistake. It is a bargaining process, and you can believe the process will end only when both sides are a little bit unhappy. So having had one serious experience with that, with a union reaching beyond the powers that they had, was when I worked for the city of Vallejo, where the police and fire had a strike which angered and frightened the public, who changed the charter to provide for a compulsory and binding arbitration, and they've had the highest police and fire salaries for about 2
You have
decades.
30 seconds.
Until in 2008, the city declared bankruptcy. So I would leave you with the caution that your decision will be both impacted by the short and long term, and that we hope that you will recognize there are many people in this community who want you to know that you're supported, and that we hope that you will act sooner than later. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Martin, I just wanted to make a comment that Don McIntyre was the city manager of the city of Pasadena for what, Don, 17 years? And did an outstanding job. So I just wanted to make sure people are aware of the fact that he has a lot of experience working with government and working with the public.
Okay, I appreciate you bringing that up, Trustee Thompson, because that was certainly. Okay, and so with that,
My name is Nick Winslow, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I've been a Pasadena resident for 18 years. I grew up in South Pasadena, and many of my close friends got their start in adult life right here on this campus. You should also know that I'm a trustee of my undergraduate institution, Pomona College, and thus have some working knowledge of higher education, including student, faculty, and administration relationships. I don't often come to meetings like this, but I'm outraged at the chaos being caused by the current faculty union leadership. Clearly, this leadership does not represent the rank and file very well. The leadership's ill-advised, delaying tactics kept the teachers from getting raises for 1 year and now perhaps 2. The union focused on a calendar instead of wages and benefits, which I believe was an ill-advised strategy. According to the Fact Finders report, the union leaders have allowed the negotiating process to end without ever making a serious proposal or counter-proposal. In a supreme irony, they have left it to the administration to fashion a contract. It is in the best interest of this community the faculty contract issue be solved now and restored, and the campus order restored. I urge you to act on a contract which benefits the rank and file. Be generous, be fair, be quick, and end the chaos. Thank you.
okay, thank you. That was our last comment on non-agenda items. We did get numerous cards on item F, and so with the board's permission, I would like to move up item F. We're going to skip item D and item E, if that's okay with you, Superintendent Rocha and the rest of the board. And we will get to item F, which is the academic calendar. And we're going to begin with public comment. I'm sorry, there you are. We do have quite a few cards, so we're going to limit it to 3 minutes each. I appreciate everyone showing respect for all speakers as a civil procedure. And in an effort to facilitate this, Trustee Brown will call whoever it is and then call maybe the next person or two in line so you can queue up and be ready. So
Okay, let's
with that, we're
begin.
going to go to item F, and Trustee Brown.
So the first person will be Gina Harris, to be followed by James Castillo, and then Eduardo Cairo. Is Gina Harris here? James Castillo, please line up. And Eduardo Cairo will be the third. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Gina Harris, and I am a full-time student here at Pasadena City College. And to my understanding, They are, the new calendar is not, you guys aren't proposing to have a winter intersession. And I would like to let you know that myself, including a lot of my fellow students, would like to have a winter session. It is very important to us. It allows us to take classes, especially in my curriculum, where some classes aren't even offered in like the spring or the fall. I'm very nervous, public speaking, excuse me.
You're doing fine.
I also wanted to mention that with this session, I think I've been in class since January 7th. I believe that's when the actual spring session started. I haven't had a break yet. Okay? There needs to be time in between for us to get a breather. And even at that January 7th start time in the spring, I do Lancer Radio and I work the Rose Parade. So I didn't get the Christmas break either. So I went straight from winter, worked the Rose Parade, which was every day, preparing for it, for production, and then we started school on January 7th, that Monday. I'm a little tired, I'm a little burnt out. Again, I wish a lot of my fellow students who are in the same program that I am in were in a position where they could have transferred and they couldn't because of the changes that were made. And I sympathize with them, as I'm sure a lot of people here did. Winter intersession allows us to take classes that we need, that we normally can't take during the fall and during the spring. And for others, it also allows to have a little break in between if we choose not to take a class. But if
You have 30 seconds.
I just want you to consider listening to the students and the faculty, because these are the two entities that affects the changes that you make to the calendar. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Castillo?
Hi, good evening. I've been here for like maybe 3 years now at PCC, and I'm a working IT professional. We have operations here at Pasadena, and I'm here because I want to be a filmmaker, an independent filmmaker, and there's a lot of great classes here. I'm not saying all classes are great, but there's like professors here that have met great people in the industry, and it's a great institution. And with my experience here, I feel like there's some problem with the leadership, because I do, corporate top management stuff, and I understand what it means to handle a lot of people and different responsibilities. And I've seen two different kinds of leadership. One where you impose what you think is great for the organization, and one where you go down and listen to your people, right? Because in the end of the day, it's the students and the faculty, or if you're in your organization, it's your managers, your employees that will make the organization great. So what I'm just saying is what I've seen from the class sides, there's like fellow schoolmates waiting outside, and there's like 10 seats, empty. Or, like just this change of schedule where I feel like I've been out of school for a long time because of the 2 summer sessions.
You have 30 seconds.
I feel like it's just, not where we should be. I mean, I'm with like working together, and so I feel like, we should start having dialogues with everyone, from faculty to students to administration. And I just want to make sure that, the winter intersession will be on the agenda. Thanks.
Thank you.
Eduardo Cairo, to be followed by Dan Haley.
So this isn't where we're going to introduce you as our new academic senate president. We're going to do that a little later. 'Cause
I understand.
You're speaking in a little different forum here, but I think we all recognize that, and
Thank you.
we have an introduction coming.
Let me introduce myself. I am Eduardo Cairo. I am the newly elected Academic Senate President.
Well, there you go. Cat's out of the bag.
Thank you. To my right is Dan Haley, the continuing treasurer of the Academic Senate, and Pat Rose, the newly elected secretary for the Academic Senate. Early Douglas is the new vice president of the Academic Senate. Unfortunately, her husband will be is scheduled to undergo surgery early tomorrow morning, so she could not be here. I'd like all to say that this slate that was elected how should I put this? Well, the entire slate was elected versus the other slate, which shows you the type of support that we have. This past week, the Academic Senate met and we formulated a letter to be read tonight stating the Academic Senate's position regarding the calendar. The Academic Senate would like to reiterate our position that the academic calendar for 2013-14 passed by the Shared Governance Calendar Committee and approved by the Academic Senate should be adopted. This calendar includes a winter intersession. The college president superintendent informed the Academic Senate leadership that he would present to the Board of Trustees 3 calendars for consideration, including the one approved by the Academic Senate. From the contents of the board packet for the July 17th meeting, he evidently has chosen not to do that, but to present only his own calendar for the board's consideration and approval. The president's proposed calendar has not gone through the shared governance process and was only presented at the June 13th meeting of the College Council when very few faculty members were on campus. In fact, the meeting failed to reach a quorum and no actions were taken. It is our position that the academic calendar is part of the 10+1 academic and professional matters that Title V and PCC Policy 2000 require mutual agreement between the administration and the Academic Senate. The academic calendar has a direct effect on student preparation and success, faculty professional development, and processes for institutional planning. Adoption of the calendar proposed by the college superintendent president is a violation of shared governance and may affect the college's accreditation.
We would like to point out that an academic calendar, including a winter intersession, is strongly supported by the Associated Student Board and by the student body as a whole. We'd also like to point out the many advantages a winter intersession offers our students and college. The Shared Governance Calendar Committee has provided ample evidence that winter intersession has resulted in greater student access and success. A winter intersession allows students flexibility and added additional opportunities in their academic plans. Additional course credits can be added between August and June without having to take overload classes. Winter intersession also allows an additional period to complete prerequisite courses and to retake classes. Winter intersession courses can be included for transfer credits in the following fall semester. Summer intersession courses do not count until a full academic year has passed. We hope that you're aware of the extraordinary machinations the administration has had to employ in attempting to correct their error in assuring students that summer classes would count for this year's transfers.
The recent state budget agreement stipulates that California's community colleges will be given 18 months to build their FTEs back up to pre-2007 levels. If achieved, these levels will determine future funding, but this is a one-time offer. The addition of a winter intersession will allow PCC to have 4 registration periods, greatly enhancing our ability to attract students. One of the primary reasons PCC moved to a compressed calendar with a winter intersession was that it allowed us to better compete with for-profit colleges, which have very flexible registration periods. It should also be noted that we will be competing for FTEs with all other California community colleges, including those who retain their winter intersession. The inclusion of a winter intersession has shown to be beneficial and advantageous to our students. The arguments for its cancellation have not even been made to the faculty, students, and staff. In the interests of transparency and shared governance, we ask that you adopt the Senate-approved academic calendar with a winter intersession.
Thank you very much.
Ana Torres, Early Douglas, and Christian Hyatt. Please line up. Ms. Torres? Okay.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Anna Torres, and I'm here to speak on this past academic year. You may remember me from the Associated Students. I came to almost every board meeting since August 2012. No doubt you all remember that meeting. Many came to speak on the new calendar, as I'm sure many have come to speak about today. At that meeting, I asked the board to listen, and that was all that I requested. Being a student, I respected your decision and trusted that you, the trustees, took my comments to heart. So I changed my ed plan and pushed through the fall semester. On the AS side, though, there was much more. Clubs needed to rewrite their constitutions, reschedule or cancel event plans, and ask for more funding than ever before. The counseling department, God bless their hearts, was overflowing with the amount of students we sent their way. And we worked our hardest to get the word out to every student that we could. Spring came early, and we got our spring break before spring actually became a season, and college applications began. I filled out a few of my own and followed the scheduling as published by the Courier. But along the way, we started to get rejection letters. And while I do not believe that I was rejected for the spring-summer switch, I know that AS has helped many students who would have been. I got to admit it was hard to play phone tag with other colleges and pass all my classes at the same time. But I got through it with the help of good friends and many late nights at Denny's doing my homework and breaking free of the stressful days. Then the registration date for expanded spring came. Students either waited in line that stretched all the way to the Carlos Jr., or like me, spent about 4 hours trying to get through on LancerLink to get a class without getting kicked out of the system. Finally, I graduated and walked in the 88th annual commencement, and I was one of the many who was able to. And as I was going through finals week for my last class in extended spring, I get an email that stated that it's actually going to be a summer class after all. And at this point, I was about ready to give up because I was still in question for my application at UCR. But it didn't pan out, and though it didn't pan out, the administrator that was assigned to me was very helpful. And now that we have the new Lancer Point, I'm even more confused. I had to
30
email the
seconds.
counseling office to finally get my grades, and some of the tabs led me to a completely new login where my username and passwords weren't even recognized. All this sounds nothing like that was promised when we had this meeting back in August to the people that you did listen to a year ago. They said counseling could handle it, they said you save money, and they said that students wouldn't be affected when they wanted to transfer. Yet you ended up spending more, endangering student applications, and having more student needs than counselors could attend to. I'm not trying to say that you didn't listen. What I am trying to say is that the administration you did listen to last year has misled you, and it has caused you to lose a lot of support from the people you represent. I'll end my comments with this. Proverbs chapter 14, verse 28 says, "In a multitude of people is a king's honor, but in the lack of people is the downfall of a prince." All I ask is that you listen to the people who have come to speak to you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen?
Hello, I'm Kristen Hyatt, and I'm a senator at the Academic Senate, and I represent the Health Science Division. And I came to speak about the calendar and read you an email that I received from the Dental Hygiene Program. Again, I'm just going to paraphrase a little bit. And it's about the fallout from the schedule change and the winter intersession cancellation. The Dental National Board scores were lower than the previous years as a result, they feel, from the winter intersession cancellation. Traditionally, the program was ranked in the top 20 on a national level. The winter was utilized to help prep our students for the dental hygiene national boards and to teach advanced instrumentation techniques. Because of the winter session cancellation, advanced instrumentation instructions had to be given before students had the time to develop basic instrumentation skills. This resulted in more tutoring to all students in order to successfully meet the requirements of the program. Now, as a result, more students than ever before did not successfully complete the dental hygiene state licensing exam. Laboratory and instrumentation sequencing was compromised. Students were forced to take on more. This diminished their practice time, which resulted in undue pressure on them to perform. This also created an increase in the number of tutoring hours spent with the students that would not have normally needed tutoring. To their knowledge, this was the first time the dental hygiene program had been over budget. So in addition, because of the cancellation of this session, the fall semester, the program's senior students will be in school 10 to 12 hours a day and a half on the 5th day of their schedule. All of these students have family obligations to meet. They don't know where they have the time to study, to complete their program requirements and achieve their goals. And they don't have an answer for them. You know, what can they say?
You
So
have 30
I want you
seconds.
I want you to consider this and keep this in mind, the severe impact it had on the dental hygiene program if you ever consider canceling the winter session. It's beyond me why you would even consider it. There's absolutely no good reason at all. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Early Douglas, is Early Douglas available? No? No, okay. How about Magdalena Harris? Did we do her already? Okay, there you go. All right.
Good evening. My name is Madeline Harris, and I am an adjunct here at Pasadena City College, and I'm also a student in the biotech program. I'm here to speak to you because I received, along with other faculty members, a message from Dr. Rocha saying that we were in growth mode. And because the school is in growth mode, it is in this place in parallel with a new educational delivery system, as you probably are aware, titled Massive Online Open Courses. That means that for example, a course that I finished just a week ago was titled Drug Discovery, Development, and Commercialization, which was offered by UC San Diego. 15,000 students were in this class worldwide. I found the course rigorous, dynamic, and well within the area that I wanted to be in, which is medical genetics. I want, like my colleague here, is to make sure that no one goes into the hospital. And if I can affect that, I want to take classes like that. However, if this is to be the new paradigm of educational delivery, I would like to see Pasadena City College be one of the bellwethers of this new delivery system. The State University of New York the State University of New York system is participating in these courses. Also, our Cal State system will be offering such courses. I haven't seen an indication where there's a community college presence about this new delivery system. It was wonderful for me. There isn't enough time to tell you the benefits that I personally received, but I would like to make sure that this community, these young people, and all of you are a part of developing courses, making sure that learning is available, and that we are now a part of this new educational global community. Thank you for hearing me.
Okay, thank you. This is the last on item F. We're going to close public comment. And I'm going to now, as part of item F, turn to the superintendent.
My name is Sarah, and I just had a quick 3-minute public comment. I wanted to turn in my car, but I couldn't. First off,
I'm sorry, I closed public comment.
Board President Martin.
I just wanted to say I love this school. I know you guys love this school. We're on the same page with loving the school and wanting it to be a really great place. And that's in the spirit that I come here. And I know that it's not the best and it's not optimum, but when I can't get into the building on time to turn in the card, then I can't do it the right way, and I'd much prefer to. With that said, I just want to say I really want you to strongly consider the winter intercession on its pedagogical merits. I know we've talked about it until we're blue in the face, but as two groups of people who really love this school and really care about it, I'm willing to keep trying. I'm willing to keep trying with you. So the thing I have to say about the winter intercession is that it has a huge benefit to students because of the sequential nature of classes. When you have a class like English 1A, 1B, and 1C, you need all three of those to transfer. And if you have a winter intercession, you can take it in the fall and in the spring, or in the winter and then in the spring, and then you can transfer that very next fall. If you don't have a winter intercession, you can take it in the fall and then in the spring and then in the summer, but because of transcript deadlines, you can't transfer in that following fall. You have to wait an additional calendar year to transfer. And that means that we have students who are still here clogging up the system who, bless their hearts, they're ready to fly from the nest. They're ready to go into the world and transfer and leave that space for new students and for growth. And that's why I think we really need to have a winter intercession.
Okay, I appreciate you cooperating. Dr. Rocha.
Thank you, President Martin. I've asked for permission to make my recommendation and my presentation to the Board of Trustees and to the public from the podium because I would like to use the laptop. My friend here is going to help me. And you see, I need to get to the internet and onto, so I'm going to do it this way. While you're doing that, just give me a moment here. I need to actually get onto my
Right, that was the first one.
email. In the meantime, while that's happening, I'm waiting to connect. Mr. Miller is handing out a paper copy of some of the presentation. Okay, I need some help here to get onto the, I need to get onto the webmail, Outlook webmail, so that I can put my, there you go. There you go. Let me hit that. There should be, yeah, that's it. Okay. What's going on out there?
Haven't seen Roger, is he? Once people have left, they should let other people in, too.
Yeah, I need to open.
Okay. Should we do approval of the minutes while you're working on that?
Sure.
I'm going to do approval of the minutes while you're working on that. Item D, got 2 meetings, 11 and 12. I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Corrections or additions? Doctor, are you turning yours on or off?
Off.
Off. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Okay, seeing none. All in favor, please signal on your device. Carries, I'm sorry, Trustee Simon, the advisory vote is affirmative.
Trustee Simon.
And we have, did you have
I
a,
have to
I'm sorry, did you have a
abstain.
correction or
I
addition?
have to abstain from the June 5th
Okay.
minutes. I wasn't here, but I vote yes
So
on
the
the
advisory vote was yes. We have 4 affirmative votes and an abstention by Trustee Thompson on the 1 minute where he was not present. Okay. So we got through D. Okay. How was that? Now we're ready.
Thank you,
Back to
President.
F.
Thank you, President Martin. Normally, I would do this from my chair, but I decided to come to the podium so that I could do this publicly for everyone and for the public since it's being televised. And I'd start this way. First of all, a decent respect for the opinions of all faculty, staff, and students, members of the college community, requires that when one makes a recommendation that one comes out and makes a case for what the basis for the recommendation is. And that's what I am about to do right now, because it's important for the public to know this. Not that I am right, okay? But it's what I hear from the consultation that's been going on actually for a couple of years now, is that people can look at the same evidence and come to differing conclusions. And that's fair. The important thing is whether the conclusion and the recommendation I am presenting to the board tonight has been made on a reasonable basis. Now, first of all, I want to, and to do that, I'd say that my recommendation to the Board of Trustees to adopt the calendar that I've recommended without a winter session that starts on January 13th is rooted in two primary reasons, and I hope not to spend an hour on this, but I need to make the case so that at least everyone and you know that we have made a clear basis for this. There's two reasons. It is better for student success as we define student success by graduation and completion. And it is better for the budget, which is better for student success, because it will result in more sections and more seats for students. And in the year that we just had the academic calendar, so we have an actual year of experience, we have mounted more sections this year at a lower cost than we ever have in PCC's history. So let me also start by saying that if one student has a problem with any part of their program, that is one student too many. And we recognize that there have been problems and dislocations, as there are from from a change of this type. But Dr. Bell and the great team in Student Services have done wonderful work to make sure that students have been seen to one by one, and we will continue to do that. But let me root it in basically the Student Success Scorecard. These are not my stats. This is the Chancellor's Scorecard, and this is the policy of the Board of Trustees. That is, we are going to move forward on this Chancellor's Student Success Task Force, and the board has adopted this as its guiding policy. And I want to emphasize that here, that the key things, these are the stats for PCC's graduation rate for the last year, for the cohort. And you will see that our graduation rate, that is the number of students who receive a degree, according to the State Chancellor's database, who come to us ready to take college English and math, is 74.1%. That's pretty good. The only problem is that only about 1/3 of our students come to us prepared to take college-level English and math. Most of our students assess below the college level and have to begin in basic skills, English and math. So of the students who come to us, that is the vast majority of our students who come to us and are not prepared for college-level English and math, our graduation rate in the most recent cohort is 44.2%. Not good enough. And then if you look down, and these are my circles, but the Chancellor's stats, that the graduation rate for African American students in the most recent cohort was 37.5%, and the graduation rate for Hispanic students are 32.5%. In other words, African American students of color make up almost a half of our students, and they are graduating at a rate of about 1 out of 3. So yes, while there are students, and I have the deepest sympathy with students who are struggling to transfer, but they are at the end of their college career moving on to university. When 1 out of 3 of students who start with us, according to the most recent stats, never get through. So I just want to go on to the next page. This is Pasadena City College's Student Success Scorecard from the Chancellors, because what these stats are the cohort that enters at a given year, and they track the entire cohort. I'm speaking emphatically, not because I'm angry, but because I want to, I want the mic to record me. So, but if you see, the current winter session began in January of '04. It has not been here forever. The traditional trimester or three-semester calendar was the order of the day until January of '04. That's when it started in the '03-'04 year. Of the students who began in that cohort, and remember, the graduation rate is not based on 2 years, not based on 3 years, but based on 6 years, okay? And there's another reason for the calendar change, because the federal government has changed the 150% rule, so now students have to get their financial aid and get through in 3 years or less. So, if we were to track how many students get through in 3 years, these numbers would be still worse. In any event, since we instituted the winter session, overall, we have declined, the cohort performance rate has declined by 5%. That is, overall, all students, our graduation rate went from 58% to 55%. For African American students, it is much worse. It went from 48% to 39.5%. That's a decline of 18% over those 5 cohorts. For Latino students, it went from 42.2% to 36.8%. That's a decline of 13% over those cohorts. And those are students who completed in 6 years. So when you look at these stats, and you look at, and I'm not saying it's causal. I am not saying it's causal. I'm an academic, and I know how to read evidence, and so I'm not saying that the winter session caused this. But when any academic looks at this and sees this was an event, and then this is not just 1 year, but over cohorts, this is the overall trend line, not on student success in the abstract. Because what does that mean? Student success is defined as to whether this college gives a student a degree or a workforce certificate that suits that student for a high-wage job. I'm just emphasizing this because this is this administration's North Star and the primary reason why we altered the calendar. Why? Because the majority of our students, and praise the Lord for our students who are able, good students who are near the end of their careers, but most of our students are struggling in basic skills and can't get out. So, when I came in 3 years ago, you charged me to change that. And so we looked at these stats, and we said, sorry, PCC has a preeminent reputation. We're one of the top 10, with these stats, we're one of the top 10 in the state. Still not good enough, okay? These graduation stats are unacceptable. Even if winter session or a 3-term calendar wasn't the solution, you've got to try something. Well, we did. The academic calendar of the 12-13 year. And look at the results in 1 year, okay? Persistence is the percentage of students who begin in the fall and who continue in the spring. If you look at these stats, over the past 5 years that are not my stats but have been provided by our Office of Institutional Research, you will see that persistence was 68, 72, 73, just right about in a level. In 1 year, and again, I'm not saying it's causal, but in 1 year, persistence went up 10%. Now, the Chancellor's Office will also tell you in their stats that there are 37,737 students at PCC, okay? So when persistence goes up 10%, you are doing a greater good for the greater number. And these are students who most need our help. Institutional research last year, and I do not say in any way, shape, or form that my case is going to convince those who believe that winter session should be in, okay? All I'm doing is trying to show that my recommendation is based on the board's guidance, the board's charge to me, and a reasonable read of the evidence. But last August 29th when we went through this, so to say that we haven't had consultation on this calendar is simply not so. Okay? Last August 29th, 2012, when we went through this whole thing again, we made another case. In that case, by the way, the minority of community colleges have a winter session. And Institutional Research did a wonderful report on the effect of the hiatus on student performance. And the research, again, causal, don't know, suggested that the longer the hiatus, the worse the performance for our most at-risk students. It just makes sense. And I've given you information in that packet, which I won't read out. Dean Douglas and Dean Arnwine did an exhaustive case statement last year and said it just simply doesn't make sense that a student who starts in basic skills English and basic skills math and doesn't pass it in 16 weeks is all of a sudden going to pass it in 6. Now, that's not my statement. That's the dean's statement. So, and also they showed you that most of the students who took our winter session, this is a fact, were not our domestic students. We're CSU enrollees on the quota system who were cherry picking our extra courses. Okay, so persistence went up. Now, how do we want to make these, how do we want to make more graduates, especially of Black and Latino students who are suffering? All right? Well, first of all, they're here. They didn't drop out, okay, due to the calendar. Second of all, if you want to do that, you have to take a part-time student and turn them into a full-time student. Many of these students who have talked to you are fortunate to be full-time students because they've cleared their English and math and because they are able to take classes. We have available sections. But our basic skills students, our most vulnerable and at-risk students, cannot. They can't afford it. They have jobs. 56% of all of our students are on BOG waiver. That means they can't even afford to pay the $46 fee as it is. So what did we do in 1 year with the academic calendar? Obviously, we guaranteed in-district enrollment, and with the Pathways first-year experience, we moved up the number of full-time students, still too low, by over 10%. We moved it up 4 full points over last year. It is now at 38%. A full-time student graduates, a part-time student takes 6 years and does not. Now, does that mean this is a dead sitch? We've got to have winter session, not winter session for the rest of time? Of course not. But the fact finder said, and found for the district, and the fact finder said, keep these stats, and we showed these to the fact finder, keep these stats and track them over the next few years and see what happens. And if they don't get better, you're going to hold me accountable and my administration. But we have to do better for these students. Now, pathways, okay? Again, students on the front end. I'm not denying the problem students on the back end had, although Dr. Bell will report to you that every single student who came forward has been seen to. May have been a mess for a couple hundred students, but we have 37,000 students, 2/3 of whom come in not able to take English and math, college-level English and math. So, Pathways students' persistence, fall to spring, is astronomical off the charts. That program didn't exist 3 years ago, and it exists only because you can create a learning community that can be cohesive over 8 months of instruction. Again, the facts show, the research shows, that the longer the hiatus, the more the dropouts. Okay? Again, I'm not saying that it's the perfect solution for everybody, but I'm saying this is the way I read the evidence, and the administration reads the evidence, and it is having a salutary effect immediately in 1 year. Okay, then, there's the full-time students. Went from 36 to 38%. 38% is not, seems like a lot, but it's the most we've ever had. And there are the stats on the percentage of students on BOG waiver is rising. This past year, 56% of our students, forget about getting into class, can't even afford the $46 a unit. So we have work to do with the students that are most vulnerable. And our judgment, after consultation for almost 3 years, is it's time to act dramatically. The early results are good. And so I therefore recommend the status quo. I also want to say, okay, the recommendation is before you of the calendar, all right? This is the calendar that begins on, there were 2 options, and the board has all 3 options, okay? I discussed all 3 options at College Council. I discussed all 3 options with CAPM. There is no question, I will report to you, as the good President of the Senate reported, that they don't agree with the recommendation. There's no question about that. And I've reported that to you honestly and faithfully, and you've heard it here tonight again. But you have the recommendation was there were 2 no winter session calendars. One that began on January 13th, and another that begins on January 6th. So if for a moment you assume that we're going to have a no winter calendar, the consultation resulted, after I considered everything, resulted that if we were not going to have a winter session, that the better calendar would be the one that starts on January 13th rather than January 6th, because you heard the young lady said that she needed a little bit more space, okay? Well, there you go, all right? But we don't want to give up on the value of a 3-term. Then finally, do we need to, the no winter, the with winter. I mean, we've known this for 10 years. So it wasn't a question that, no, the calendar committee, I have some more. Now wait.
I, for one, trustee, am focused on the main event and not the sideshow.
Yeah.
So keep speaking, please.
The calendar, and here's the calendar with winter back in, which is pretty obvious. If you put winter back in, you have to move the start date out 6 weeks. And so, the debate in the consultation is with winter or without winter. So, that has not been a secret to anybody for 3 years. So to say that somehow this recommendation got slid in today just simply doesn't square with the facts, especially since out in the open, the fact finder's report will confirm that. Okay, and then finally, as far as the shared governance, I do put did give a copy of the policy. This is the board policy on doing the calendar. Obviously, you want to consult. The calendar is, as it says here, for the superintendent president to develop and recommend with appropriate consultation. The record is clear that I've done that. I should also say, in all fairness, as Eduardo and others have said today, they don't agree with my recommendation. And I could go, amplify it. And finally, I'd say this, okay, to close this portion off, and then I'll sit back down and take any questions, and then it's over to board deliberation. This week, we have over 1,000 international students coming for their orientation, okay? And they need to know what the calendar is for this coming year. We are about to start, Dr. Bell has already started scheduling for spring. We have already, at a cost of $11 million, migrated the entire college's computer system over to Banner and have it coded to the 3 starts. So I do say this, okay, for those who believe strongly that winter session is good, that I fully respect the Senate's letter, and and I have, I don't want to sit here and rebut it point by point, but with all due respect to the Senate's assertions, okay, I've presented the evidence on which I base the recommendation, okay? There is no doubt that there is a group of faculty and students, some of whom are here today, and I've listened to respectfully, okay? And that some people do not agree with my recommendation, okay? But there is also no doubt that the superintendent president that you've appointed and the administration that we have working for you, and that the executive committee of this college has looked at this exhaustively, and we therefore put it for you with our recommendation to adopt the status quo calendar for 13-14. Thank you, President Martin.
Okay, thank you. So now it's over to the board. I'm going to begin by getting a motion on the table for discussion. And after we have a motion and a second on the table, we'll open it up to the board.
I have a motion I'd like to make.
Trustee Baum.
I'd like to move adoption of Calendar 1 option that is presented by the President and Superintendent.
Okay, is there a second to the motion? Dr. Mann is the second. Okay, it's open for okay, thank you. Okay, it's open for discussion. I think Trustee Frazier, Trustee Baum, Trustee Mann will go in that
Well, I think if
order.
Trustee Baum had his light on first, so I'm happy.
It doesn't
to
matter. I'm
okay.
the president, and I said you're up.
Then fair enough.
There you go.
So,
that was simple.
just trying to be fair.
That's
so.
I appreciate it.
You know, the statistics are interesting. Absolutely. I do agree that causality isn't demonstrated. I mean, I don't think that we can say that the winter is responsible for a doubling in our 50-plus population between 2006 and 2006-07. And, you know, I have to hear, I'd be interested to know, and maybe we know this already, what the not the persistence from fall to spring, but the completion from fall to spring. Because we heard students who were burnt out by taking the 2 16-week semesters back to back. We don't know what the completion looks like yet. There may have been indeed as persistence. I don't think we've got a demonstration of completion rates. And one of the things that I'll say is that I'm not a fan of the winter calendar because I like taking short classes in the middle of cold weather. You know, I have to think about what's the best opportunity for students to complete in an academic term. And so one of the benefits I find is that 4 opportunities to complete rather than 3 is very valuable. I think that we haven't looked at other systems of scheduling. If you look at the student success scorecard, Foothill De Anza is one of the top, and they're on a quarter system. I mean, these are things that I think we should quite honestly be considering. I don't know that we really had a conversation that has been actually a conversation, and that's what worries me. I think that we've heard the arguments from both sides, but I don't think anyone sat down and really discussed where the points meet, where they go wrong. I think we've just sort of talked our facts at each other, and our facts look the same, but they're different at the same time. So I have to go with what my constituents have told me, and what I've personally experienced, which is that the winter is a valuable tool. And I recognize that there are issues with curricula that doesn't quite fit in that system. I think that's absolutely reasonable. I think one of the things that we should be doing at a higher education institution, especially with, and I want to clarify something as well, because I think something that Dr. Rocha said to me a while ago, that I was a better situated student to take these kind of classes. I'm on the BOG waiver. I came out here as a basic skills math student. I have a job. I'm an IP paralegal part-time, which is very badly paid, but I do as many hours as I can scrape through because I have to take basic skills. I have a high unit count now, and I'm about to lose financial aid. The winter opportunity for me to jumpstart some of these extracurricular general ed requirements for IT, for STEM majors, and there are many benefits. I think we're also here to learn and to teach students not only what the class material is, but how to survive in an academic environment, how to take shorter term classes, how to be rigorous, how to understand this. There are ways that we can look at our curricula, especially in basic skills, to make this short session, beneficial, but we haven't looked at them. And that is what I would like to see before we make the change and before we think that the trimester solved all our problems, because I'm not convinced that it has yet, and I think that there are other ways to solve the problems that are being talked about.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Baum.
I just have some questions about implementation of the new calendar, because clearly I think that this administration and this board has learned a lot in the past year about the implementation of the current year. So my first question was, with the addition of the summer session, formerly branded extended spring, there was clearly very high demand for that. And my understanding is that 9,000 headcount enrolled in those classes. How are we positioned with this recommended calendar to meet that demand so that those students will be served and be able to be served in a spring transferability term as opposed to what we had happen this year.
Yeah, Trustee Bond, thank you for the question. The first part of it, I'll give to Dr. Bell on the effect on the students. But I would say you've raised the issue of the enrollment growth, which our friends in the Senate have raised the issue of enrollment growth and why the summer is good for enrollment growth, or the three-term calendar, okay? We will not be able to grow under any circumstances by competing with other community colleges. Anyone who has done enrollment management and be held accountable for enrollment management, as all of us in the administration have been for many years, okay, knows that you cannot grow by trying to steal students from other community colleges, okay? You only grow by having good programs and be able to get students through a sequence of programs that begins with your primary terms. And the limitations on growth at PCC have nothing to do with winter session, since it is a fact that the old winter session pulled in as many non-PCC students as PCC students, and that we've rehearsed that. But the point that I wanted to make was that we are most impacted for facilities on the main campus. To grow, we need to do two things. We need to take the existing students we have and turn them into full-time students so that they can get financial aid all year round and go fall, spring, summer, okay? And we need to have the 3 terms so that we can relieve and better schedule our facilities, because there's only, for example, science, there's only so many labs that we have. And so we're impacted on growth, not because of, well, we don't have winter session, we do have winter session. We're impacted in growth because we're not planning the sequence of courses through a rational, traditional 3-term calendar. Now, as for the first part, of your question, I'll refer to Dr. Bell, because he has worked the beat very closely with the Chancellor's office and what the effect would be.
Right, because in essence, I want to say, what have we learned this year that we're going to be able to implement next year to the benefit of students with this calendar, and how would we meet? Because it seems like 9,000 enrolled students for the summer 1 term far exceeded even previous winter session enrollments as well. So how will we manage that?
Well, we had, Trustee Bond, we did have a very large enrollment for the summer. The quintessential change that and what we've learned is it's going to necessitate a different configuration of planning with students and how they build their ed plans and, if you will, their pattern toward transfer. Obviously, a lot of the students who were impacted most directly by the calendar change had planned to arrive at the point of transfer with courses taken in the 6-week winter intersession. That was the adjustment we made. What we learned is in working with students going forward, and i.e. our students who will be looking to transfer in the spring and into the fall of 2014, is to make sure that the courses they're taking now, more classes, more sections, is built into their planning process. So it's a planning at the front end of the transfer sequence, if you will, so that these classes are counted in, and then when they get to the end of the spring semester, they're pretty much finishing up that cycle as opposed to having the summer class trail. That's one thing that we learned, and it's important because, as you all know, when we get to fall 2014, all of our incoming students will have to have an ed plan and will have to go through that process of student success. So it will be embedded in that whole process of more universally, if you will, planning those directions for all students.
I was pleased to see the full court press counseling effort that was made on behalf of a number of the students that were impacted by the calendar. And one of the things I'm going to continue to support and try to advocate for is increased access for counseling that goes beyond what we can offer electronically, although we could certainly enhance the electronic tools that are used for counseling. And I'm hoping we can continue to find more bodies to actually reach out and touch students in that manner.
We will continue to work on that. As one of the speakers says, our counseling office and our counseling faculty have done an outstanding job. I think the reality is, and what we recognize with the full court press you describe it, is that this was not an effort which was exclusively the responsibility of the counseling faculty. It would cut across several different areas of engagement at the college. And so we'll have to look at, in addition to increasing the capacity of talented counseling faculty, how do we work more collectively in other areas to support students to transfer.
My last question is going to be, the data and the tracking so we can evaluate the decision and the calendar's impact on student success. I saw the data. I've seen the data for 10 years about that we've been reporting to the Chancellor's office, and it's been a concern of mine for 10 years. And we heard tonight about a specific program that one member of the faculty said actually was impacted and had lower performance and student success rates than in previous years. What is the plan to kind of go program by program also, and then see, are there adjustments to be made? For example, when I hear about the students not having the time to prepare for boards, is there a modular course that could be added in a spring semester to address the need of students to focus on board preparation for dental hygiene, something like that?
Those are all possibilities. Traditionally, what we have done, particularly in our primary term, is schedule the larger majority of our classes have been traditional 16 weeks offering. And what we're looking to do now is to be more creative, if you will, in that 16-week period called a primary term, and in intersection as well, offering classes of different lengths so that students will be able to do modular scheduling across the 16-week period in addition to our more traditional 16-week schedule.
And I just want to make sure that we're going to take a hard look at program by, not only demographic data, but program by program data. And I hope actually as a district, we can begin a regular process of program review that not only takes the calendar, but other curricular performance measures into account when we look at what's going on in social sciences, what's going on in natural sciences, what's going on in career technical education, so that we can then pinpoint and target and address issues that we're focusing the resources. Because I don't like hearing the issue that the faculty member raised, and if there's something that needs to be done beyond the calendar, again, we talked about, is that caused by the calendar or not, but are there other measures we can take to ensure improving levels of success?
And we could do that now because of the new database and the computer system that we've just installed, which is now live. So the statistics that you were presenting, Trustee Baum, were possible because for the first time we were able to report them in real time because of the new Lancer Point system that we've installed.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're good on your questions? I think Dr. Mann, did you have any questions?
I had a couple of comments.
Sure.
I would like to, first of all, comment, again, everyone is probably sick of hearing this, but as a member of the Student Success Task Force, one of the things we did look at was different schedules and when putting schedules together. And and I'm not, my degrees are not in education, but the research that I read during that year, the most effective kind of scheduling for student success is a trimester. The second most, as Mr. Frazier pointed out, is the quarter, but a quarter system is continue. You don't have breaks. There is also, which we were referred to, probably a mountain of data on what happens in K-12 during the summer. And I'm sure if you were to look at that and you were to talk to anyone, that break, many children, most children in fact, forget almost everything they learn. So over the summer, so I'm not saying that our students are children, but I am saying that there are, although sometimes I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that there is a huge amount of research, if we want to talk about research beyond just what the Chancellor's Office gives us, which indicates that not having the breaks and the gaps in learning improves learning, and this is particularly true of students who are not ready to do college-level math and English. So I support this calendar, but I think we should do as the fact finder suggested, monitor it, and if we find out that it's not having the results that we think it would, then we can always change it.
Trustee Wah?
Yeah, I think, I've heard a lot of the discussion and the arguments, and I read through a lot of the materials and the historical data. Being an IT person, I'm quite data-driven, so that's where my decision-making comes from. So I have to say, I have not heard anything yet that says that this calendar won't work. And then having personal experience in going to many colleges that had different calendars, I think any number of calendars can work. And frankly, I prefer the quarter system myself. But I do want to say that I do think to Trustee Frazier's comment, you know, there needs to be some dialogue. I think the road bumps that we experienced after adopting this calendar, I think that this administration has shown a commitment to taking some very proactive steps to help our students. And so what I urge is not so much that we go back and look at a different calendar. I think that the fact finder went through the data themselves, and they also recommended that we establish some history so we can see whether or not this will be a workable success for us. But I do think that if there are students, or if we have constituents who feel that there is going to be a significant impact for which we can actually proactively put in some action, implement an action that will help mitigate any of those impacts. And I would like to see that list or those issues so that they can dialogue with Dr. Bell and Dr. Rocha, and that we can be more proactive in helping the students, but do it to find a constructive way to come up with solutions that will help, rather than trying to go back and undo what's already been, the decision that's already been made.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Brown.
Sure, thank you. Well, what I would like to say really is the fact that the calendar, as it stands, status quo, we will adopt it, I suppose. But the questions that I have is, as it stands, and I guess anything that's new will create some, little hiccups that it would not run smoothly. What I would like to ask administration is, now that we are completed this turbulent summer, what do you foresee, if anything, to come that would affect any student to hinder their ability to transfer? Can you see or think of anything? Because my goal here is student success, and if one student is having problem transferring, to me that's a problem. So is that possible? So is it possible for us to, I know it's no magic that you would say, well, we know this, but let's put something in place, maybe going back to what Linda said. I'm sure we're not 100% clean, that in the fall of 2014, we won't have any problem. So what can we do as a board, as administration, and as students, instead of fighting against each other? Let's try and see how we could work this out for the better good. Everyone needs to win in this, because we cannot continue the way we're going. So please, administrator, tell me something, what we could do to help.
Well, I think there's much we can do, and that I'm very proud of the work that Dr. Bell, Dr. Levo, and the teams, many people on those teams that did great work and developed actually a new model. So let me ask Dr. Bell to walk us through the more specific answer to your question, so that you can be sure that every student will be treated and handled and moved to graduation.
So Trustee Brown, in response to your question, I think it really pivots on two things for the administration. That is a much more active and proactive job of planning and communicating, and that is something we'll need to begin right now. As I said before, the task, the job of ours, is to make sure that students know what classes they're taking now and how it will build into a plan, if you will, targeted for transfer in 2014. We need to make sure we communicate that more effectively. Learning from this, we need to communicate better and plan more effectively, and that will be the job of the counseling and the team model that we put in place to do that. That's really those are the cornerstones of the plans that we're doing now, the technique and the methods we're going to do to work with students more effectively. It will be done through the obvious way we do through the counseling office and outreach to students there, but it'll be more proactive, working hopefully closely with President Frazier and AS to make sure that when we put plans into place, and we operate on the precepts that we believe are correct and meeting students' need. We test those assumptions with students directly early on in a proactive manner.
So am I hearing that we will have more collaboration between students and administration? Is that what I'm understanding?
That is exactly what I'm saying, and that's been my outreach to President Frazier today.
Thank you.
Trustee Thompson.
Well, I had a couple of questions here. The statement has been made that the proposed calendar has not gone through the shared governance process. Number one, is that a legal requirement that it do so? Ms. Cooper?
No, Trustee Thompson, it's not. The academic calendar is a matter exclusively within the purview of the board.
Okay. Now, factually, is that statement correct?
No. That actually falls under 4 of our 9+1.
I don't know who's talking, but the superintendent. I'm recognizing the
asking a question. I'm saying is...
You asked a question, and I'm going to look to the superintendent to answer your question. I don't know who said what.
That was me.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask people not to speak out in the meeting unless I call on you. And when a trustee asks a question, I look to the superintendent, and you can point it wherever you want.
Board policy, I think it is 2300, is very explicit, and you have a copy of it in front of you, okay? It is not mentioned in the 10+1 of the Board Policy 2000, which governs shared governance. Board Policy 2300, I believe, which you have a copy of, is very clear that the superintendent president develops and recommends a contract based on a consultation with appropriate groups. Now, the first, if the point of consultation is to make sure that one has received input from all quarters, then the answer to that question is true. And now, if the answer to the question, has the shared governance groups approved it, the answer to the question is no. But as it says in our own shared governance handbook, okay, which we were required to write as a mandate of the accreditor under Dr. Kostler, that there are times that even the law is that rely primarily is not rely totally, that there are times when the Board of Trustees has, in which all authority is invested, may not accept the recommendation and after they have made it clear why, as I clearly have done. In addition, though, I should also say this consultation, this matter of the calendar first came before the College Council almost 3 years ago, in December of 2010. So the first time that a no winter calendar was created was in early 2011. There was obvious resistance to it at that time, and as you may recall, Trustee Thompson, that we pulled it back so that we could consider it more fully. In February of 2012, then President of the Senate, Ed Martinez, said clearly in this chamber, in a public meeting, that the academic calendar was not an issue for the Senate and was solely a matter of collective bargaining, which is the law. Now, has the Senate been consulted at every point? Of course it has. Has the Senate most recently raised its objections? They've made that clear to you. Most recently, the way that Policy 2000, and it's there for all the world to see, okay, that the College Council, the shared governance bodies, okay, as it says in our consultation bodies, they are not approval bodies. Not even the Senate is an approval body. They make recommendations. Policy 2000 makes clear that there is not, for example, a academic Senate calendar committee, so the Senate is free to form one as they have. I know that Dr. Bell, as the co-chair of the calendar committee, had a meeting with the calendar committee in which they went through the calendar alternatives, and that the calendar committee at that time very clearly opposed a no winter session calendar. Finally, when I made my consultation, as I'm required to do under Policy 2000, with the College Council on June 13th, at that meeting, I showed all three calendars that I showed you tonight. Many of the people here who have given your input rendered their input. I promised them at that point that I would convey their input to the board, as I have done, in unaltered form. Finally, I would say in May, President Martin, we consulted on the calendar yet again in open session, and President Martin read a statement for the board, made clear that we were going to, while normally the calendar was adopted and usually in spring, that we were going to wait because the fact finder report would occur, okay? I did have a meeting with President Cairo and the members, our usual consultation meeting at CAPM, in which they asked and made clear, in fact, probably the only subject of discussion at that meeting was the calendar. And I made clear at that meeting what my recommendation was going to be. So the answer to your question, Trustee Thompson, has the consultation occurred? Yes. As you've heard today, do some of the shared governance groups for which I have the deepest respect agree with the recommendation? The answer is no.
One further question in connection with that. You alluded to the fact-finding process. Was the issue of the calendar a part of that process? Did that go before the fact finder, and did that person make any judgment or ruling on the calendar?
And I see you looking to our legal counsel, but I'm looking to you, and you're going to.
Well, I would say that the short answer, Trustee Thompson, is yes. There is a big binder of material that actually both parties, which continues the consultation. General Counsel, would you be more specific in responding to the trustee's question? The question is, right, was this material that I presented tonight and much more, was that presented to the fact finder, and did at that time the fact finder also have the opportunity to hear from the Faculty Association?
The answer is yes. The material that President Rocha presented tonight was contained in the district's position on the calendar. The issue before the fact finder, of course, was regarding effects bargaining, and the fact finder determined that the Faculty Association had made no proposal. The fact finder considered information and evidence submitted by both sides in connection with his recommendations concerning continuing the calendar during any operative contract period that might ensue. So the answer to your question is yes, Trustee Thompson, he did.
And did the fact finder, as a part of that decision, offer any judgment as to whether we had the authority to put in place the tri-semester calendar?
No, that wouldn't have been his function. He was presented with the law, which specifies that the board adopts the calendar. The effects of a change on working conditions is negotiable.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are your questions answered? Yeah. Okay, Trustee Frazier.
Thank you. A couple of questions. Just immediately to jump off of that question, it was stated that the fact finder related directly to effects bargaining. Did the fact finder in discussion of this material have any conclusion, or was there any discussion in that process of either whether we could make this decision as part of shared governance rules, or whether was there an academic and pedagogical discussion, or was the discussion very closely confined to effects bargaining and collective negotiation issues?
Well, again, I think General Counsel just answered a question. I'll ask her to elaborate. In general, the fact-finding report is there on the website for the entire public to see. It's clear from reading the report that the fact finder, for example, on any of the issues, took in whatever material was presented by either of the parties, either the district or the faculty association. So yes, that information was but as General Counsel said, and she can reiterate, the fact finder's job was not to determine whether the board had the authority, because the district's position under the advice of General Counsel had already established that, and that will be a matter of law. So have I stated that fairly?
You have, President Rocha, I'm reticent to say, give any specifics about discussions in fact-finding, because as you know, that's a confidential process. But Trustee Frazier, to answer your question directly, though, shared governance is not an issue in fact-finding. Fact-finding is strictly a part of the negotiation process. And so the issues presented to the fact finder from both sides concerning the calendar by way of background and by way of evidence were as to his recommendation about whether or not a contract, should one be reached, would contain the elements of the calendar that are the effects on working conditions. So the board having adopted the calendar, the issue for the fact finder was, would he recommend that that calendar, the status quo, continue in a contract, and that his recommendation was that it should. And part of that was because the Faculty Association had made no proposal.
Thank you. My second question is that I wasn't around in 2004. Well, I was around, but not in Pasadena. And I'm pretty sure, I think. As far as I remember, this was a time when there was growth for the community colleges, and please at any point correct me if I'm mistaken. So we were at a point of growth for the community college system. And so one of the reasons, among the other pedagogical reasons given for the calendar switch to the compressed calendar, there was the quicker access to classes, but there was also an element of we can maximize our funding, we can maximize our FTEs, we can build in an academic year a larger funding base. Then when we started the discussion in 2009, which I came in for at the middle beginning of that, the discussion was the state is contracting. We are no longer getting funding for all of the people we have in. We cannot have this open door policy. We need to change our model and contract it and probably get rid of it entirely. So we were in a period of contraction. Now we're back to a period of growth. So my question is, what is the logic then? And I'm trying to understand why this calendar, which is similar to what we previously had, allows for more growth than the winter calendar, which we A, had to contract because it wasn't getting the funding and FTEs that we needed, and B, was one of the reasons that we went to it in the first place. I know it's a long question.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the question, but the question has to do with enrollment management, for which the administration is held accountable. There's an enrollment management committee, and I fully respect on tonight, if we can, when we get to it, is there's a very important enrollment growth report today, basically about the outreach and the satellites. But I would say, as Dean David Douglas last August and others reported in the case statement last August, okay, on the winter session, that in general, putting up a winter session does not automatically increase your growth. In fact, it may do the opposite if students who are not domestic, if you will, PCC students are pushed out because they either can't afford the extra session or because, faster CSU students get to the door and so on. The other question I'd say in terms of enrollment growth has to do with essentially how many seats you can offer the total number of students. And that's determined by how much the district spends in order to get the enrollment that is targeted for by the state. So the expenses of the district, okay, another way to get enrollment growth is the expenses of the district with the calendar enable us to reduce our expenses, salary expenses, and in all fairness, that's one of the basis for some of the arguments with the faculty union, and we were able to put that savings to the charge of the board, and that is to open many, many more extra sections. So again, we will look at enrollment growth strategies. I assure you, which is what we're going to talk about tonight later, is that we will hit our enrollment growth targets. As Dean Douglas pointed out last year, that the winter session was created in a time of almost unlimited enrollment growth, okay? And that's still not the case here. We have our enrollment growth capped, although at a higher level, so.
Any more questions?
Just a very brief comment based on those two arguments. You know, I think we focused a lot about negotiation and the fact-finding process. I think that we need to, when we make this decision, remember there's an academic element to this more that I think we've heard a lot about and that matters just as much, but still needs some considerable weight. And I worry that we haven't had enough of a discussion and time to even process a lot of this information before being asked to make the decision tonight. We've heard a lot. And secondly, I'm hearing a couple of different things that aren't quite making sense to me. I do think that the winter has some benefits that we've all talked about already, and I don't think that those arguments have been given enough consideration. One final question, and we probably don't know the answer though. I know anecdotally we lost some students to Citrus and Glendale, community colleges that have winter sessions. Do we know how many? Is there a way to figure out how many students actively, because I know it anecdotally, I don't have numbers, so is there a way that we can find out how many students decided not to stay at Pasadena City College in order to go somewhere else because of the calendar change? And that would be my final question and comment.
Well, I see the head of institutional research kind of nodding her head. I mean, it's a fair question, but again, it requires a great deal of data that we need to pull out of the system and that we need to look at over a long period of time to make data-driven decisions. But the primary driver of the decision is what's best for our students right now. The students who are actually in our college and in our calendar right now, because as you could see from the stats, the primary charge of the Board of Trustees is to fulfill our responsibility to all of our students who are with us right now, most of them who don't get out of the college with a degree, to get them through, and we think this will do it better.
Okay, I see Trustee Baum, you had a light on, are you still?
I did, but I think Trustee Mann wanted to call the question, and I can make my statement after the vote.
Okay, and so you want to call the question?
Yes, I call the question.
Okay, so we're going to vote on calling the question, and I think that's a straight vote, yes or no? If I got my procedures correctly. So if you vote affirmative to call the question, we'll immediately go to vote, and if you vote negative, then the discussion will continue. Okay, give Trustee Thompson a chance, there you go. Okay, so we will go immediately to a vote on the motion. We've had all the discussion. We're looking first to the advisory vote is no, and now the remainder of the board. So the motion carries unanimously with the advisory vote voting no. Okay, we will move on then.
Could I just wanted to
Oh,
make
you
a
wanted to
comment.
make a comment, Trustee Boss.
So thank you very much. First off, thanks for the vote, and I appreciate what the recommendation, but it is also, I wanted to underscore that it's the board that makes this decision. And sometimes I think we hear confusion that it's the president making the decision. It's not the president making decision. The board makes the decision. And then I was president last August when we made the original decision, and I feel that we should be held accountable for that decision that was made, as we will be held accountable for the decision tonight. I do want to respond to something that I've been reading about as well, because and it references some of the points that I made. In that, when I supported that last year, I made that vote after several meetings where we had lots of feedback from students, faculty, and administrators providing perspectives. And Ana Torres made a good point. She said, will you listen? Do you listen? I think you were very powerful in that statement. And I heard the points that John Fraser made. I heard the points that Simon Fraser made. I heard the points Sarah Belknap made. I heard the points that Kevin Clinton made. I heard the points that my friend who launched the recall campaign against me made, that about the desire for one calendar over another. And then there's been the question about all the points that were raised that John and Simon and others made about the impact on transfer, the impact on other success. And then they're saying, how come there's no acknowledgement? How come there's no apology? The Courier even says, why isn't there even an apology or acknowledgement? And I'm going to say, frankly, an apology is owed. There were impacts that were raised by John, by Simon, by others that were not fully anticipated and fully acknowledged. But that being said, because I even underestimated the number of students that might have been impacted on a transfer. But I also got positive feedback from other students, so I weighed that. Alex Collegian, before he became a candidate, told me that he thought the three-term calendar would be great for him and his and students from La Cañada like that. So I heard from students that liked the idea of the three-term calendar, and my professional experience at universities and at colleges and baccalaureate institutions has shown the success and the impact of the three-term calendar. So I don't want to pretend that we didn't hear and don't acknowledge that the implementation needs some review and some improvement going on. And then for those students that were impacted and that feel that they've suffered as a result of it, I will extend an apology because I did not fully understand every impact that was going to happen. But that's what we do as a board. We make decisions based on the information we have. We often have closed down academic programs or changed them that we know impact a lot of students who are in those programs because we feel that the needs of the workforce are different than what the program's offering. So every decision we make can impact a student positively or negatively. I still feel very strongly that the decision is the right one. Philosophically, the data that I've reviewed at the state level and at the local level, but then I want to make sure that we're all going to partner in a spirit of learning what we did from the last year's experience and making sure that going forward we'll be able to reach out, get in touch with students early who might have needed a class for transfer, and making sure that those needs are met. And I'm confident that those steps are being taken and that we will continue to review, and that it's not an open and shut case, but that the board will continue to listen and hear the concerns and then factor that into the decisions that we make.
Thank you, Trustee Baum. We're going to move on to item E, which is a consent item.
President Martin, Academic Senate President requests to be heard.
No, we're moving on to item E, which is a consent item, and I'm pleased to report the board has asked me to pull for separate vote 9P, 10P, 11P, 12P, 13P, and 14P, because those in one title or another are all units and unions within the district where the district and the union or the unit have come to a mutual agreement on a contract. So we are thrilled with all the hard work that everybody's done there on both sides. That will be a separate vote. But barring those P reports, I look to the board to ask you, are there any other of the consent items that you wish to have listed for discussion? Trustee Wah?
I just want to make a comment on 10B.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
10B.
10P? 10B as in boy. Okay, thank you. 10B. Okay, are there any others? Okay, I would entertain, do you need it for separate vote or just a question?
Just a question.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent items with the exception of 9P through 14P, which will be held for a separate vote.
Move approval of consent items.
Thank you, and a second by Dr. Mann. Okay, let's discuss 10B.
This is really just a comment, and certainly no criticism. It's just that I've said this before, $500,000 expenditure on IT items is a big tab. So it'd always be good to see what that spend down overall report looks like and how it fit in with our overall plan. So it doesn't look like this is just an ad hoc item that's coming up. Because we look at $600,000 expenditures almost every month on IT. So just my recommendation.
Okay, well, thank you for pointing that out. Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Advisory vote on those consent items. Remainder of the board. So that carries unanimously of members present, including the advisory vote. Okay, Dr. Rocha, we're going to one at a time go through 9 through 14P, but I would like to afford you an opportunity, and any other member of the negotiating teams an opportunity to comment on these before we vote on them.
Well, I'm scanning the crowd to see if our colleagues from, I don't think I saw Julio Huerta come in, and from from Issue CFT. Issue CFT represents all of the classified staff at PCC. CSC, the California State Employees Association, represents all of the facilities and trade staff. I don't think Rudy's here. He's probably working on the night shift right now. Let's see, the POA is the Police Officers Association, which is the collective bargaining agent for our police officers. And of course, we have a number with them with us tonight. We have Crystal sitting in for the Management Association, and for Dave Douglas, with whom we've executed an MOU. And we have the confidentials. Confidentials are a class of classified service who perform in confidential capacities for the executives on campus, and we have I don't think Cindy Smith is here, but I just wanted to say this. First of all, and then of course we have the 14P, the budgeted salary increase for the executives, all of whom are in the room. I'm strongly recommending salary increases for all employees at PCC except for me, and the salary increase for the Faculty Association, which we dearly want to give, has been offered and is a result of concluding our negotiations. I do want to say, though, this is the first time, the very first time, certainly in my tenure and in a long, long time, that we have ever concluded collegial and amicable negotiations with every one of these collective bargaining units. I also want to make a personal note that I wish that Dave Krause, rest his soul, had lived to see this. Because we concluded an agreement with CSEA, which he had worked on for 3 years, which had expired in 2009, and we were not able to come to agreement until just now, and Dave had a big role in that. So I think the increases are deserved. They're deserved for the faculty as well, and we hope that we can come to agreement so that we can get the faculty their raise. The increases are deserved, and the increases are well within budget, and in fact within the norm that Governor Brown recently set for all state employees. So with that, President Martin, I submit it for your approval.
Okay, and so I'll entertain a motion. Now, we want to do these one at a time,
Absolutely.
I think, right? So we're going to start with entertain a motion for 9P, which is the agreement with the PCC district and issue CFT.
So moved.
Have a
Second.
motion by Trustee Wass, second by Trustee Mann. If you ever don't hear who made the second or are unclear, just give me a signal and I'll try to say that for you. Okay, discussion, Trustee Mann, then Trustee Baum.
I would just like to point out that this agreement has a salary increase of 2% effective July 1st and a salary increase of 2% effective July 1st, 2012, and a salary increase of 2% effective July 1st, 2013, and a increase of 0.79 or 1/2 of the COLA of 1.57, that these are the critical terms of this contract.
Trustee Baum?
And I just wanted to also restate that that data is in each of the contracts. They each share a 2% increase effective a year ago and a 2.79% increase effective this year. And that is found in each of the contracts. And I'm very pleased to see that the district was able to reach these agreements with the bargaining units, and that the bargaining units worked so effectively with the district to come to these agreements.
And I don't know that there's any of the other unit presidents here. If they were and wanted to address this, we'd be delighted to hear from them.
See a former.
Okay, so I think that closes it. We'll look to our advisory vote and the remainder of the board, and that carries unanimously, including the advisory vote. Entertain a motion for 10P, which is the agreement between PCC, CSEA Unit 777.
So moved.
I think that was Trustee Frazier and a second by Trustee Waugh. Is there any discussion? Are you voting ahead of me, or is that discussion?
We're anticipating you're going to call the vote.
Yeah.
Okay. I was asked to do this by the board. So advisory vote, remainder of the board, and that carries unanimously of all trustees present, including the advisory vote. 11P is our agreement with PCC and the POA, our law enforcement officers. Entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Trustee Waugh, and I think second by Trustee Thompson. Any discussion? Advisory vote. Remainder of the board, and that carries unanimously, including advisory vote. Item 12 is the ratification MOU with the PCC district and PCC confidentials. We'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Waugh on the motion, Trustee Frazier on the second. Advisory vote. Remainder of the board carries unanimously, including the advisory vote. Item 13P is ratification MOU, the district and PCC management.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Trustee Mann, second by Trustee Waugh. Advisory vote. Remainder of the board carries unanimously, including advisory vote. And finally, 14P is the PCC district and executives. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Dr. Mann, a second.
Second.
Trustee Thompson. Advisory vote. Discussion. I'm sorry, advisory vote. Okay, remainder of the board. And that carries unanimously, including advisory vote. So there we are for our consent calendar. Congratulations.
One other thing I just wanted to point out, too,
Well, go ahead, Trustee Baum.
is just that these take us through June 30th of 2014, and I can't recall a time on the board where we've had active agreements with virtually every one of these campus bargaining units through the end of the next fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are, would normally be at, we are at item G, which is recommendation for the PCC Foundation for Placement of Art on Campus. I'll let you make a presentation, and there was a great deal of information in our packet on this.
I introduced Bobby Abram for a refreshing change of pace. And I also want to recognize our good friend and dear colleague, former dean of VAMS, Alex Christelis, who's very, very patiently been standing by. Alex, and I'm so glad that you're here today, Alex. Alex, well, for many years, really was obviously the energy behind what's being presented tonight. But really, the board item tonight really is about recognizing the work of Alex and so many people through Alex who are making this moment in PCC's history possible, because the Center for the Arts, right, Ruben, is about to open. And we're on schedule for that. So I can't thank Alex enough, because his leadership and his stewardship over the years have brought us just to the threshold, quite literally, of this glorious Center for the Arts. And And now we're going to talk about placing art around the Center for the Arts. So, Bobby.
That is correct. Thank you very much. Good evening. I'm pleased to have Alex Chrysalis here with us tonight. He has been working with the foundation over the past year in a consulting role, and one of the responsibilities has been to help us identify how we can place art that has been donated to the foundation over the past couple of years but has been sitting in storage waiting for a debut. We would like to get this done so that at the time the Center for the Arts opens, we are not only celebrating art internally in our building, but also on the outside of our campus. So I'm not going to steal his thunder, but I would like to just alert Reuben Smith in case there are questions about infrastructure of the art or the foundation that needs to be laid for it. Reuben has agreed to be on hand and answer those kinds of questions.
Thank you, Bobby. Members of the board, Dr. Roger, good evening. And it was worthwhile waiting the 2.5 hours. I was reminded what I've been missing the last 2 years. But also, it's very sweet to see that the board remembers how to smile, which is a good thing.
I can remember the day we hired you. I can remember that day.
I will never forget it.
Yeah. So Alex, I'll never forget you.
It is my pleasure to be here. The project that we have started about 15 years ago, the idea of placing a sculpture garden in the middle of our campus, from my perspective, has been educationally important, but also transformative in terms of how the campus looks. The most important thing from my years that I have been part of this community is to see that art has been weaved into the educational experience of our students. And I do believe when they come to our campus and they become aware of what they're surrounded by, their way of thinking of themselves, it is enhanced because they believe that the institutions think of them as potentially productive citizens that they will contribute to their communities. I have a presentation of 6 objects that they were given to us over the period of the last 4 years. The first one on the list is the baby banana tree, which was installed about 5 years ago, created by Yutaka Sone. About a year and a half ago, as you remember, heavy winds came through the campus and the sculpture was destroyed. We had to remove it sometime in the beginning of November of last year. And during the spring semester, we began the repair work. I can report to you, and you probably know that it's been reinstalled in the space in between the V building and the Center for the Arts. And before the opening of the Center for the Arts, we hope that it will be back to its old glory. In addition to that sculpture, which is now being repaired, there are 5 pieces that were given to us by 3 major donors to the institution: Adelaide Hickson, Peggy Phelps, and the Boone's family. Those 5 sculptures were kept in storage because at the time we're not exactly certain how to handle them, but the excuse of the center opening up gives us the impetus to move on and find the proper placement for each and every one of them. They're going to add to the quality of the space that we all work day in, day out, but they will also give to the donors the satisfaction that the presents that they made to the community college are going to be enjoyed by everybody. So I'm going to start and very briefly explain where each and every one is going to be. This is the baby banana tree, the way it was installed in the sculpture garden. The proposed placement is to be in the west end of the area in between the Center for the Arts and the V building. It is right now installed there, but not totally. And as you can see here, as you approach it from the west, you will just begin to see the sculpture. And as you approach the area from the east, you can see again the sculpture. It appears to me that in that smaller space, it would look larger and it would look a lot more beautiful because everything around it, it is to make you focus on the work. The second piece, it is an Eric Orr piece given to us by Peggy Smith, by Peggy Phelps. And that piece is a water fountain, and the proposed place for it, it is to be on the south end of the sculpture garden in front of the Black Box Theater I think this is a good placement for the piece because it will greet those that they will be coming either to watch a theater production or to listen to a concert in the recital hall. As you can see here, next to the tree, there is that vertical piece that stands in front of it, which is the sculpture itself. And then again, you can see to the right of the box office. It is about 10 feet high. It's made out of bronze, and there is water that runs over the face of it in a very quiet way. The third piece, it is The Magic Hand by Ken Price. Ken Price passed about a year ago, and this is one of the very few pieces that he created in bronze. He's known for his ceramic work. For that piece, because of its scale, a decision was made to place it inside the area again in between the Center for the Arts and the V building, and it is going to be just in front of the offices that there were to be for the performing arts. You can see the grassy area and with the arrow points. This is a view of it as you will be coming into this area from the east end. And this is how it will look from the west end. The next piece is a Yusamu Noguchi table and chairs, which was given to us by Peggy Phelps. This piece is it's an addition. In other words, the sculptor created a set in a number of editions, and we have one of those in our possession. Because it is a much smaller item, we thought that it's safer to keep it indoors as opposed to in the outdoor space. And the area in front of the entrance to the art gallery in the Center for the Arts seems to be a good place where people can gather and use it actually as a table where they can wait for a friend to come, or maybe there is an appointment that somebody has, and that's an opportunity for them just to rest, maybe read their paper, contemplate. The next piece is one that it's already in the circadian patio area. This is a figurative sculpture about 2/3 of the life size. It's one of 9 pieces that the artist created, but the original piece, which is a 12-foot version of the sculpture, is in Oklahoma City. This comes from the Boone Foundation. Mary Lou Boone was the one who gave it to our collection. And you can see the location is a little bit further north from where the arrow is pointing right now. And the last piece, it is a sculpture that was also came to us from the Mary Lou Boone and the Boone Foundation. This is an athlete who is balancing on a beam, and the decision, because of the subject matter, was to place it in front of the athletic center. As you can see here, will be on the west end of the Hiram-Patterson Gymnasium, just to the side of the entry to the building, and it would look something like that. This is a composite of all 6 sculptures. 5 of them will be placed around the Center for the Arts, and number 5, which is on the top left side of the map, it is the one that goes in the circadian patio. I would like to point out that these sculptures have come to us because the college over the last several years have taken good care of the pieces that originally were installed in the sculpture garden, and the confidence of the community that we can manage and handle the gifts that they are given to us in a good manner. It's been kind of accepted and approved by the donations that they have made to us. By staying focused on that task, in other words, by making sure that the pieces that they're given to the college are taken care of in the best possible way and given to the public so they can be enjoyed by everybody, I think the community will be further reassured that the college is in the business of taking care of those gifts. They're given to us, I was told, because they believe that our students will benefit from it. They are not to be the kind of vanity objects that maybe others may want to have in their collections. They believe that the doors of these institutions are always open, not just for our students, but also for the community that surrounds our campus. And during the time that I was here on a Saturday or a Sunday, I remember I would often see a father or the mother strolling the young one through the sculpture garden and enjoying a little bit of the environment that we had created, not just for us, but also for the community that surrounds it. So I urge you to continue to support the idea that the arts can be woven into the educational experience of our students, that enhances the environment, creates a level of appreciation that changes the behavior. I do not remember a single instance that a piece that was placed in display was vandalized or graffitied by anyone. And I think part of that, it is because the place is humanized, and it also projects a community that values the students that come here to study, as well as the work that has been placed on our campus. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Okay, Trustee Thompson.
I just wanted to say that at the foundation level, we thought that this ought to come to the board for the decision, and also so that you would know exactly what's being proposed and the location for it, and have an opportunity to say yes or no, hopefully yes, because a lot of work has gone into this. Alex has done a great job. Bobby and the foundation itself have done a great job too, of which I serve as the liaison for. So I think we are very, very fortunate to have work of this sort being donated, and we should accept it. I would be pleased to make a motion to approve the recommendation of the foundation.
Okay, thank you for the motion and second. Trustee Waugh.
Yeah, just a comment. When I read the report, I didn't really, it wasn't until I heard you speak and talk about the thoughtfulness of the placement and the artistic value of the placement. So, yeah, I just think that thank you so much for coming back, even in retirement, to contribute your time to this. And the fact that actually the donors are from Area 5, you know, makes it very special to me. So thank you very much.
We will hold that against them.
Trustee Mann.
Yes, I just have a question and a comment. First of all, do we own other sculptures? We must, because we've had artists in residence who've given us other sculptures. And is there a plan for them?
Well, they're smaller pieces, so to place them outdoors.
But so they will be placed indoors?
Yes.
But are they on display now?
They're in the library.
They're in the library?
In the library.
Oh, okay. That was my question. The comment that I wanted to make for the benefit of some of the new board members and for the public is that when we first started planning the sculpture garden, Mr. Martin and I were on the board back then, and some of you who've parked in that parking garage over there, that parking structure, may notice that we have very nice music that's playing, and that was due to Mr. Martin insisting on it. But what I think is so important about our sculpture garden is that it's so situated that if you go to the library, it's almost impossible not to experience the art. And that was, I think, one of the things, because I was on the committee at the time, that Mrs. Hickson was very moved by, that all of our students would have this experience, unlike, say, at UCLA, which is a great university, great sculpture garden, but it's kind of off in the, you have to go find it, it's kind of down in a little groove and so on. So I think that may be part of the reason why there's not been any vandalizing. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of vandalization of art in the city of Pasadena, but ours, no one has touched ours. I think that's wonderful.
Okay, Trustee Baum.
I just want to emphasize how fortunate we are to have Alex Kritzelis remaining engaged with the college, and your creative hand really shows through here, and for the leadership that you've been able to exhibit, and also to claim Peggy Phelps and Adelaide Hickson as residents of District 1 I'm proud to know
well,
both
they were
of them.
Area 5.
And the Boones, of course, are great, and they're in District 5, I believe. But that we have these amazing philanthropists in the community. And I think PCC, save for the Diego Rivera mural at City College of San Francisco, when we have Noguchi and others sculptures on display, it's got to be one of the most significant collections of any community college in the area.
It is indeed. and we're very proud of it. I don't want to take any more of your time, but because 2 years ago I almost exited during the night, you know, it was a very last moment decision that I had to move on with my life. I never got the opportunity to thank the board and the college for giving me the chance to work here and to contribute. So this is the moment tonight, since you gave me the chance to be here, to thank you all, because at the end of the day, there is something that has been left behind, which I'm very proud of. And I think the students, over the long term, they will enjoy this, and they will become part of this, and I hope that the community will continue to endorse it and to support it. Thank you very much.
Well, we're going to hear from Trustee Frazier, but I'll say I know we made the right decision back in that board meeting, and I've really enjoyed your years here, and I appreciate your comments that you made and your philosophy and your approach to this art that is for the community, and that's important. Trustee Frazier.
Just in response to your comment about hoping that students enjoy them, we do. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have a motion, and we'll look for the advisory vote and the remainder of the board. And so, again, that passes unanimously with advisory vote. And so thanks you to the foundation and all those who have worked so hard and a very thorough presentation. This was very well done.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
we appreciate all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's have it. Thank you. They deserve that. We're pulling item H, so we won't need to discuss that. We will move on to emergency preparedness. Item number I.
Yes, and I'd ask, let's see, Dean Yamuchi and Chief Yoder, ask them to the podium. And this, I do ask us to, take a little breath. This is actually a very important item. And I'll preface it, and then I'll ask the Dean and the Chief to just work from the last page, which is the recommendation item, and go directly to your questions. Both in the interest of time, but in the interest of, getting right to your guidance on this. And my very brief introduction is that, first of all, we are grateful to Chief Yoder and Dean Yamauchi for heading up a very large college-wide task force that's been at work actually for some months since the terrible Newtown tragedy. They've been doing work longer than that, but that's when we kind of geared up. And we charged the task force to look at ways that we could increase campus safety and security, especially concerning the possibility of an active shooter scenario, okay? I should say at the outset, in these recommendations, there is no change, no current change in the current policy as far as arming the police. This is not a recommendation to arm the police. So with that, they've been hard at work. They reported to the board at, I think, the meeting before last, and made a lengthy presentation, so you have the guts of it. They reported to the College Council, last College Council meeting on June 13th, I believe. And what I asked them to do is, because we want to try and take real actions that they've recommended, and these actions require action and spending money, I wanted to get right to their specific recommendations so that we could have the board's guidance, and with the time that's left in the summer, put facilities and other people to work. So with that, again, the idea here is to make sure that we're working on two fronts, okay? One front is the front of prevention and help. And we already have a referral program, a psychology services program that Dean Yamauchi heads up, that is a very excellent model, but not as well known as it should be, and we really need to beef that up, beef up the training, so that we can identify any individual in the college community who may be in distress, and train everybody so that they can get the help they need before exhibiting really violent behaviors. And then the other part is, God forbid that we should ever have an incident as they had at Santa Monica, what would be the things that we can put in place to make sure that all of the faculty, staff, and students were as safe as possibly can be. So you see the recommendations in front of you. that's my little intro. And so, take it from there.
Thank you, Dr. Rocha. As Kit and I partnered on this, we really got together and looked at two type of threat assessments. One's being the physical, buildings, the landscape, the next being the psychological. So I'll work on the facility side. We did walkthroughs of all the locations, and some of the issues that we found is most of the interior doors here at PCC did not have interior door locks. In any type of active shooter situation, it's the lock and hide, lock and keep the shooter out. So our recommendation was to the board is to be able to put interior door locks in all classrooms and offices and outer doors to keep people out. So if an active shooter occurs, the instructor, the staff member would have the ability to lock that door from the inside. And that would be a cost of approximately $87,000. That's a one-time cost. Next is moving on to the RAVE Emergency Alert System. Alert U was our current system. That contract just ended. Along with the banner system, RAVE is now our new alert system. That kicks in August 1st. That is a opt-out system that every faculty member, student, staff, as they register or become members of PCC, sign up for this as they add their email address or a cell phone address. It's a text alert, email alert system. Emergency preparedness training materials, stuff that we're putting out is safety, and we pass these brochures out to you, placing these boards throughout the campus in classrooms and offices that talks about how to respond to an active shooter. These will be throughout the campus. These will be seen by all students, faculty, and staff. A lot of this information will be passed out at the beginning of every welcome day. Our officers will be out there passing this material out, having conversations. Working with Juan Gutierrez over the last week, we've created PCC's own active shooter video. That should be ready to go prior to the start of the next session. So I believe that'll be ready August 20th to be put out.
I'm next?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm next. The intervention services, and by the way, Dr. Rocha did a fine job in kind of introducing what we're trying to do here. The intervention services is essentially an enhancement of the psychological services. We have a well-established psychological services, been around since the mid-1950s. We currently have one licensed psychologist and 4 pre-doctoral clinical psychology interns under the supervision of Dr. Richard Beyer. We also have a part-time psychologist who also assists in the evaluation and treatment of students who might be experiencing some distress. So what we'd like to be able to do is we recognize that mental health and mental illness is a significant part of the discussions with regard to active shooter. And we know that we need to beef up our ability to be able to identify and serve the students who might need our assistance. So the intervention services at $225,000, a large chunk of that is in the increase of professional and support staff, about $209,000 for that, about 93% of what we're asking for here. It also includes increased training on threat assessment, suicide prevention, and critical incident debriefing. It's not only that we need to deal with the early intervention, but also if there's a situation that does occur, many people will be affected by it, that we're not even necessarily involved directly in the incident. So they're going to need some services after the fact. And we need to increase our technology. We need to be able to create a more electronic database so that we can store sensitive, confidential information on the people with whom we work so that we can have it ready access for services. And then finally, some supplies that we'll likely need. The next one is also under the enhancement of psychological services, and this is a facilities upgrade to support intervention services. Now, the operation that we currently have for psychological services is housed in a rather small area of the northeast quadrant of the L building. It's certainly accessible and it's easy to identify that it's our office, but it's limited in square footage. So what we're asking for is actually an increase in this area to house the extra staff and the number of students that would be using these services. And it needs to be obviously in a private, confidential area so that they can receive the professional services they need. Let's see. Now, we have another one of $15,000, and that is the C part. And you have in front of you, I believe, right, Cindy, a little bookmark, and it's a very colorful orange one on identifying C part, and on the back, recommendations for identifying different levels of student distress. Level 1 being distressed or emotional kind of problems that students might display, much more individual kind of situation. Disruptive student, in which maybe the student is causing some interruption in the instructional process in the classroom. And then finally, dangerous ones. Those are a threat to safety or personal safety. The C part is a little bit antiquated in its record keeping. We have individual files, we handwrite and sometimes word process information, and we store it in a file box in my office. And so every time we meet, I have to either drag it out or I have to remember what we talked about. So it's a little antiquated. We do need to develop a database for this, and we figured that would be about $15,000 to get a consultant to do that for us. Oh, by the way, C-Part is, and you'll see there on the back of that, is a team that consists of the campus police, psychological services, student affairs, student health services, and special services. And we meet twice a month, more often if necessary, so we call on each other right away. But the database will definitely help.
And the last three areas, cadets, in the high times, the good times here at PCC, our cadet corps was up to probably about 90. Now it's dropped down to 60. We'd like to take that back up to 74, adding 14 cadets. Really trying to get a couple more cadets over to the CEC to deal with some of the issues that they have there, and probably could help out Mr. Vargas in keeping the students from jumping the fence. So it's a bonus for that. Our emergency phone systems, dialing systems, it's a constant repair and replacement. So the emergency phones that we have throughout the campus, we're asking for $60,000 to do those upgrades, especially in lot 4s and 5s where we're having most of the problems with the phones, and most of that comes out of the parking funds. And lastly, providing additional video surveillance cameras, more on the outside facing Colorado Avenue, since it is an open campus, giving us the opportunity to have that surveillance on Colorado, watching who's coming onto campus. So you see the cost currently is $661,500, with a one-time expense of a little over $250,000 and ongoing expenses of a little over $404,000.
Okay, that was a great report. I appreciate the written documentation. I thought it was really well done. I have to start with Trustee Frazier because he couldn't wait.
I could
mean,
not.
the light's been on, right? So Trustee Frazier will go to you, and
Thank
then
you.
Trustee Wan next. Yeah.
First of all, I think this is great that we're dealing with this stuff. I think that this is absolutely the right time to put all of this in place, especially with intervention services. I think that is so important and not really paid a lot of attention to at a community college campus. Where is the money coming from, would be my first question. And then my second question would be, how would, I'm glad that you mentioned cadets over at CEC. I think that's important. We don't have nearly enough. Would any of this help to upgrade communications between the main campus and CEC? Would any of this help to, would any of the intervention services and C-Part services find its way to CEC? How would that work? So those are my two questions. Where's it coming from in
To handle
CEC?
that, or I'm going to look to you, and you can turn it right back.
Why don't you answer the second question, and then I'll answer the budget question.
Yes, so with respect to C-Part, yes, we'd like to be able to spread ourselves across not only the main campus, but also the Foothill campus. And so, yes, we most definitely recognize that there's a big need there. I would imagine placements of cadets and patrolling officers will also assist in our being able to respond quickly to situations.
Good. And as far as the budget, which is a very important question, you'll note at the bottom it says that $257,000 is a one-time expense. Most of those funds would come from our capital account, that's so-called Fund 41,
Fund
which is
41.
a facilities account, and most of it would come from that. And the ongoing, the 404, would be budgeted in the 13-14 fiscal year budget that we have yet to propose. We'll be proposing to the board in late August, early September.
That is correct. If this board votes for this, and we'll build it into the 01 general fund.
Any other questions?
I just want to follow up. You mentioned cadets over at CEC, and I think that's great. I have heard that there have been issues with communicating with the dispatch office through the radio system. Would any of this money help with that?
Now, we just replaced our antenna system, repeater system, so it's an ongoing issue as far as band. So it's a work in progress. It has improved, so it's just that continual work in progress. We do provide some cell phones, so if there is an issue, that they do have contact with us and also Pasadena PD.
And part of the issue there is also those Edison lines, those power lines that causes a little bit of challenge with radio transmission.
In that case, I'd like to move approval.
Okay, we'll get a second, and then we'll go on to discussion. Thank you. Okay, Trustee Waugh, and I should ask for clarity in the motion, because we have really what we have here are some basic concepts, right? And I appreciate the financial line items. Whoever put this all together did a really nice job on that. Are you, in this motion, would you, Dr. Rocha, be looking for the financial ratification, or is that going to come back in budgets?
We are looking for financial ratification in the sense that we're saying, do you approve these actions so that we can take the steps to execute these actions? However, like with any fiscal expenditure, we would come back bit by bit to have each expenditure approved separately, if you will, in front of the board.
Okay,
So this is an authorization.
that was clarity, and I'm sure the mover and the second, that's acceptable. And Trustee Waugh.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I think on the phone system, the first time this was presented, I think we had heard from Mr. Smith that only certain phones we only had enough money for certain phones to be updated or implemented. So has that now changed, or is this, what is the implementation of this?
We do monthly inspections on the phones. Most of the phones that we are having issues in are over in Lot 4. So that's where the $60,000, the majority of it will be going there for those repairs on the dialer systems. But other than that, all the phones on campus are working.
And that's a project, Trustee Waugh, that we've been working on for the last year and a half or so. Also, it says these funds will come out of the parking lot fund. So as we go forward, basically we had a challenge of getting the system back and functioning. It's now functioning, but there is going to be annual expense. That annual expense will come from the parking lot fund. So that will not come out of the general fund. That will come out of our parking lot fund. All those $2 fees that people pay, for example, and parking fees.
And just as a matter of the operation, so if someone does use the emergency phone system, then where does it go to? Do we have a 24/7 operator, and it
That's
goes?
correct. We have a 24/7 dispatch center, and it goes directly to our dispatch center.
And then they what, alert an officer
We have
that's in
officers
the
on
nearby area?
24/7, officers respond if we need assistance. We have a direct line to Pasadena PD's dispatch center. They pick up the phone, call Pasadena PD, and they also send a officer.
Thank you.
I think Trustee Mann was next, then Trustee Brown.
I just have one little question. We do have an off-campus site over at the Child Development Center. Will there be an increased security over there? Our cadets are, I mean, there's a large number of children there.
Yeah, during the hours of operation, we do provide a cadet during their operations. We always have a cadet there.
So this wouldn't change? This would just be the same?
That's correct.
Okay.
Trustee Brown?
Yeah. Regarding your surveillance cameras, or video rather, my question to you, you mentioned that these are going to be out in Colorado and sort of on the outskirts of the college, is that correct?
They'll be on the front face of our buildings, like Building L, facing towards Colorado Avenue. They won't be
Okay.
on on Colorado Avenue.
So my question is, what kind of security do we have in the parking lots where the students are? The reason I'm asking is because I was approached by a constituent about that, and I responded favorably, but I'm really concerned. So are students in the parking lot at night safe? And if they would encounter a problem,
Yeah, we have video surveillance cameras throughout the parking
Throughout.
lots and throughout the campus.
all campus?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And we also have escort services that officers provide, so if they do need an escort, they can pick up the emergency phone and ask for an escort service to call our dispatch center.
Okay, so I was correct. Thank you.
Trustee Baum?
Will any of this help with enhanced communication and integration with Pasadena Police, LA County Sheriff, other law enforcement agencies, so that we can at least better share intelligence and things like that about potential threats?
Yeah, I keep in contact with Pasadena PD. Actually, we were at a citywide meeting with Chief Sanchez and his staff on Tuesday. So we do have a good relationship. I do meet with his adjunct, Lieutenant Ibarra, probably twice a month to keep those communications open and build that strong working relationship, not only with them, but also with the fire department.
Right, because I expect there's the area around within a short radius of the district, of college, that's maybe not patrolled by our folks, but significantly impacts the safety of our students and staff.
Absolutely. And we open our campus up for their training. Actually, tonight we had 6 K-9 officers training on campus. So we open our facilities up for them to train also.
Okay, not seeing any further questions. We will take the vote. I'm just gonna, okay, we'll take the vote. There's the advisory vote. And there's the remainder, passes unanimously. I'm gonna make a comment that for many, many years, and this year especially, I just want to put a shout out to the cadets and the cadet program. You know, I see these cadets, they're very professional. They look professional, you know, they're helpful, they're there. They give me confidence and feel of security. And it's been like that. I know for many years it's been an exceptional cadet program, and this is a great core of them that we have. And so while we have this opportunity, and there's not too many of them here, but they do a marvelous job for us here at PCC. They're just fantastic. So I just want you to know that.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item J is Board Policy 4071, auditing fees. Dr. Rocha.
Okay, with all of my crack team on call at a moment's notice, what I'm going to try and do is do an abridged version of this report. First of all, I direct your attention and the public's attention to item K, right? It's K?
J.
J? Okay.
Okay, it's J, yeah.
That's right.
Frank.
I didn't want to. Oh, that was that Texas satellite. Okay. The item. Okay, and you see there. First of all, very briefly, we had our meeting at Rosemead last time, and the meeting at Rosemead was motivated out of our continuing strategic planning. That over time we need to answer this question. Strategic question as we look at our new facilities plan. We talked about enrollment growth.
Dr. Rocha,
We're talking about auditing classes.
you're talking about K. We're
Wait,
actually
wait,
on
wait.
item J.
Okay, we're on
No,
J.
I'm in Texas.
Yeah, we're on, I'm sorry, the auditing policy.
Oh,
It's okay.
Rewind.
well, let me relate how the auditing policy and the satellite policy are related. Okay. Jim Arnwine, stand by. First of all, I do want to say very, very clearly that this has been through shared governance, including the academic senate. So it becomes in front of you, including the college council. It comes in front of you with the full consultation completed. Okay. And then I should also say, and I want to apologize in advance if I messed up on the on the policy review committee, is that I sent a email to the board members of the policy review committee, okay? And I take responsibility for the mistake that I had the members wrong because we've made some adjustments in the committee that actually we assigned that work to the Accreditation Review Committee. So I got some of the members wrong. So there was not a formal meeting of what we used to call the Policy Review Committee. However, I did communicate several times to the members of the committee and ask them to please review it, and that if they did have any questions, that essentially we could hold an email or a telephonic kind of consultation. And so I just wanted to make that clear. So if the board, I strongly recommend this policy. Jim Arnwine and the music department have been working on this for months, and Jim would be glad to answer your questions and say why this is good educational policy for the college. So.
Well, let's see if we need to answer that or not. Trustee, well, should we start with a motion? Is there a motion to?
I move that we accept this policy.
Second?
Okay, so the motion by Trustee Brown, second by Trustee Mann. Trustee Fraser.
Thank you. So I know that John Fraser, President Fraser, has left. This has gone through the Associated Students during my term as president, and we approved it pretty much unanimously. But I did notice today, just a minor, I actually noticed it a couple days ago, just a minor thing in the policy. We say the fees for auditing courses shall be no more than 15 per unit per semester, and that's what we approve as a board as policy. In the procedures, it mentions if the ed policy fee changes, the college will reflect the increase or decrease of these fees. Is that something we either need to put into the policy that the fees would go up or down with ed code, or should we just remove that line so that then the procedure can handle it?
I would say that's a good catch. What would you, would you want to include that clause that from the procedure in the policy, so you don't have a policy saying one thing and a procedure doing something
I'm certainly
different?
open to it. Jim, do you understand the question?
I believe so. And also maybe Crystal can help me with this because she helped write the policy. But the ed code does say that, does dictate that it's $15 a unit, and that hasn't changed, I don't think, since the 80s. But
Okay, so I'm going to recommend
so I don't know if it would change
that we
or
have
not.
a friendly amendment to whoever made the motion to maybe just include the language J in the policy so that the policy will state if the ed code changes, our policy is the ed code. That's all Simon is pointing out. Does that seem agreeable to you, or?
I think maybe the best way to handle it is that we just say in the policy we'll follow the fee that's established in ed code.
Okay, would you accept that? Who made the motion?
I did.
Would you accept that?
Yes, I
And
would.
the second?
I
was-
seconded.
Okay, so we got that one. Thank you, Trustee Frazier.
Okay.
Any other?
Or we could just take it out because it really isn't a problem.
We'll use her language, and
Choose Crystal's.
you heard it, and it's on tape, and we can do it. So, any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll take the advisory vote. And everyone else, please. That passes unanimously, including advisory vote. Now the moment you've been waiting for,
Now
item K.
I'm coming back to San Antonio.
Okay.
Anyway, as I was saying,
We're going to get the report, and then you're getting it. Your first step.
The strategic, I'm sorry, for enrollment growth that is before us, not to decide tonight, but over a period of time, is should we distribute our service throughout our large district or continue to concentrate it on the main campus here? There isn't a proposed answer to that question, but we just wanted to report, since we were at Rosemead, that the three things that we are looking at as part of possible responses to that question are a review of the program that we currently offer at the Community Education Center, the possibility of a leasehold at the Rosemead Center, which we visited last time, and that this new concept, which actually there is one in San Antonio, of the cafe colleges. And the idea is that that if we decide to do that, that is, if we decide to distribute our service throughout every trustee area, that the cafe colleges, which are essentially a storefront service area that could include a classroom or two, would be a way to do it that would help students throughout the district at a minimal expense. So you have all that information in front of you, and so I probably would ask the team to stand by and just, since this is an information item only, just proceed from your questions.
Okay, Trustee Thompson.
Well, I was going to just suggest that we defer consideration of this because it raises a lot of, I think, very strategic issues, and it's now 10 o'clock in the evening, and I'm not sure that we have the time to really dive into this. So we've got the information. I would recommend we put it on either the next the agenda for the next meeting we have or sometime in the near future and really have a more thoughtful, detailed discussion about it.
Okay, I think that's a creative suggestion at 10 o'clock at night, but let me just quickly look to Trustee Baum or Trustee Frazier.
I agree with Trustee Thompson in that I'm interested in this. I think it's a good discussion to have. I did like the visit to the Rosemead campus and thought about it, but I want to make sure it's part of our strategic planning process and our facility masters planning process. As much as I like the idea of Cafe College, I don't want it to be seen as that these are political decisions driving the placement of and use of campus resources. These aren't field offices for trustees, but that they're part of a comprehensive discussion and dialogue that would fit into our facilities master planning process about where our students need additional access and how we can get it out there to them.
Trustee Frazier?
I think the larger conversation should wait, absolutely. I would just say, after hearing the public comment today, I hope one of the things we consider is how we're looking after our current satellite campus. And before we start looking to expand in other areas, making sure we don't open up more opportunities for bad neighborly relations to potentially happen. I think that's something we should look at as part of this discussion.
And that's a great suggestion, and as you can see, the first bullet was actually that point. Okay, so I'm going to defer this to another agenda, unless there's a trustee objection. We're going to go to report on college operations, initiatives, and shared governance. I think I got that right.
You do.
Okay, and so I'm going to look to, I think I begin with our shared governance groups and work into here, and then, no, I don't. They come up next.
L
So
and
this
then
is
M.
you.
Yeah,
This is you.
so this
Okay,
is
go ahead. Item L, you're up.
Yeah, very briefly, first of all, the sum and substance of my report is embodied in the the written reports that are in your folder from the Assistant Superintendent, and I will leave it at that, except I do have two important notes on, and exercising privilege. Number one, during the course of this meeting, you will notice that Cindy is the new Mary. Okay, and
yeah, but you can't keep
wanted
her.
to thank Cindy very much for standing in for Mary, and she's done a great job all week and a great job tonight. She told me when I was over there that she's never doing this again. So I want to thank Cindy, and also Mary is doing very well from scheduled surgery, and to show you her dedication during the meeting, she texted me. She's nuts. And the second note, very important report, today's Bob Bell's birthday.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can get him out while it still is.
Okay. So now we're going to go to our shared governance representatives and the Board
President
of Trustees.
Martin. I'm sorry, I don't have a copy of the sum and substance report, so I was wondering if I could get a copy of that at some point.
Sure.
Item L in my book is a public hearing regarding initial proposal for a successor agreement.
Report on college operations, initiatives, and shared governance.
Yeah, but the actual item in the
Well,
book
somebody
is
slipped
this
it in.
other, so-
Somebody slipped it behind the wrong tab.
Okay, well,
Okay. Thought we never get here. Classified Senate.
Find my notes. Our last classified Senate meeting, we swore in 2 new senators, and that being Yahaira de la Paz and Tito Altamirano. And we're very excited to welcome them to the classified Senate. Also coming up in the month of August, August 16th, we're going to be having our classified Senate retreat. And this is a planning session in which we define our goals for the upcoming year and just start planning fundraising ideas and such like that. That concludes my report.
Okay, great, fantastic. President Cairo, my apologies for not letting you go, but I had a vote that said we were, to call the question and move on, and I was making every effort to oblige the board in that vote. So,
I understand.
but I'm delighted to welcome you as our academic senate. You did a beautiful introduction, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Let me begin by starting with the positive. Since the new Academic Senate Board has been elected, we've been very busy. We've done something that we've been looking for, and I don't think has been done on this campus ever, and that is that we conducted 2 Academic Senate meetings during the summer intercession. And I'm very proud of that because we were able to achieve quorum both times. There was good participation, and from this, these 2 meetings, we've been able to accomplish many things. So I'll be brief. One, just recently we passed a non-smoking policy for this campus. We've been also updating all of our committees, in which we are trying to ensure that faculty members that are on the list are still active, in other words, are still here on the campus. As we were going through and we found out there's several faculty on various committees that have been retired for several years, so that was interesting. We've also been able to ratify the names of several individuals to various hiring committees, and that was very good also. And in this process, we've also come up with what we believe to be something beneficial to the faculty, and that is a concern that we've had in the past is that faculty would say, I've submitted my name for consideration to a committee, but I never heard anything about it. Was I on a committee? Was I not on a committee? What happened? And so we're in the process of doing, I believe it's Dave Smith and Judy Benson have done a great job of creating on our academic website, a button in which if you want to participate on a hiring committee or be on any type of academics in a committee, you click on that website, you then click on to the committee that you would like to participate, put in the information, and then the Academic Senate, before we meet, would review the information and be prepared so that once we meet during our meeting, they're already ready to vote, everything's been discussed, and it should streamline our meetings, and second of all, everyone can rest assured that their name has been submitted. So I think that's another good thing. But we have had problems. One of them is in trying to obtain faculty to participate in committees, a standard reply is, what for? I put in a lot of time and effort, and my time and effort is just simply disregarded. I'll read an email that I received from a faculty member. As long as the administration has the power to tinker with the pedagogically sound recommendations we on the committee have put forward in the past 5 years, I would neither serve on nor chair this or any other PCC committee. I refuse to invest my time and efforts in PCC to see them be wasted and disregarded. I will dedicate my talents to classroom teaching and my professional life outside of PCC as long as this institution continues to operate under the current climate. This is a type of response that we've had repeatedly, and as a result of that, it makes our position as the Academic Senate to obtain sufficient members, faculty members to serve on committees. And what we're trying to accomplish is try to convince the faculty that shared governance does exist. Unfortunately, it's our perspective after what happened today that it does not exist. And our concern is accreditation. In the presentation regarding the academic calendar, very little discussion was regarded towards accreditation. From my perspective and from the slate, we do not have shared governance. It does not exist. There's one thing to consult with individuals, but if in the process of consulting, you completely disregard the work that they've done, that's not consulting collegially, and that's not shared governance. And that is going to affect our accreditation. I cannot stress that enough. We're trying to pass accreditation, but this type of action is going to be detrimental. In looking at the presentation, I saw many flaws. To begin with, if we look at the calendar that was passed, it says summer in a session, May 19th through August 24th. I never heard anyone ask the question, does that mean that, that summer classes will begin May 19th and extend through August 24th? Or will there be 2 summer intersessions, or one 8-week, a small week? There's a lack of clarification. It would have been nice to have this particular part clarified, but it wasn't. Another issue, back in April, the Academic Calendar Committee submitted to the Board of Trustees information, data to support why a winter is good. In Dr. Rocha's presentation, he merely mentioned that it's just 6 weeks. I would have loved to have heard the Board of Trustees discuss, we received this information and these are the reasons why we believe it's not good, rather than simply saying it's 6 weeks in length. Also, Dr. Rocha, I respectfully disagree with one of your statements that you made, that you stated to us that you would recommend the calendar. In our conversation of our meeting, it was stated that you would present all 3 calendars, not recommend one of the calendars. So we have a disagreement there. Ultimately, I'm of the opinion, the board is of the opinion that there does not exist shared government. I understand the board believes that it's to be the case. Unfortunately, from our perspective, it's not. And what we would like to do is to continue to work with this administration, but unfortunately, we continue to be hampered by the actions of this administration. We're going back to the presentation. There were a lot of, my perspective was a flawed presentation. Statistics. President Rocha said, these statistics does not cause the issue. So in other words, just because we have higher numbers, he was not able to satisfy the state, it's because of this. Well, if it wasn't because of a non-winter that we have a higher transfer rate, graduation rate, then what was? That wasn't presented. It's a possibility, but it's not a fact. It reminded me of this issue that I heard many, many years ago when the United States was, environmentalists were discussing that the loggers were destroying our national forests. And if the process continues, we're going to lack trees in this country. It was rebutted by the statement saying, absolutely not true. If we compare the number of trees that we have today with the number of trees that existed back when we had 13 colonies, there were more trees back then. So how can that be possible? Well, the issue is that you're making a comparison between 13 colonies versus 50. And the idea here is, and I'm sure Crystal, I'm sorry, would agree that statistics can be manipulated to present in favor or against. And again, it would have been wonderful if both sides would have been presented, not just one. The summer session.
President Cairo?
One final point, thank you.
Yeah. So this is like announcements and things.
Okay,
And,
all right.
you know,
I
we
understand.
give you a really wide latitude because
Thank you.
you're academic senate president. We really don't want to redebate an agenda item
I
we
understand.
previously discussed. So if you could kind of
Will do.
fit in that direction
yes,
a little
sir.
more, I'd appreciate it. But there's no limit to your time here. We're hanging on every
Right,
word. So,
okay, I appreciate
but
it.
we
Will
don't
do.
really need to redebate it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's now, I understand, and I don't want to re-debate it. I just wanted to understand that shared governance is not currently happening. If this calendar was such a good thing, it would have gone through the process as one that was. And I hope that in the future, decisions by this administration go through the process. during our last academic senate meeting, there was a presentation to try to create a program, academic professional learning, I believe what it was. And the idea here is that there are a lot of very intelligent professors on this campus. Why not tap into this energy and to this talent to expand and to teach everyone else? It's absolutely a great idea. The problem is, from my perspective, is if we believe there is so much talent, why can we not use that talent in shared governments and it be respected? So all I'm asking is that hopefully in the future, the process of shared government will be respected from the academic point of view, academic senate's point of view. Thank you.
Okay, and we appreciate hearing from you. That's
Thank
very
you.
important. And I know this board is committed to wanting to hear from all shared governance groups, and we're very committed to shared governance. And just on the calendar, I do believe that was a board decision, and I do believe we made an effort to hear all the points. There may have been a point that wasn't presented.
Thank you.
So, yeah. Okay, management, not Dave, no matter what is said. Crystal.
Well, on behalf of Dr. Douglas and the Management Association, we'd like to thank the board for approving the MOU with us tonight. We totally appreciate your support. And because you did approve that MOU, we will be having a management retreat on August 2nd. We're very excited about that. It'll be at the Altadena Country Club from 11:30 to 4:30. So if you come to campus looking for us, we'll be there. All right. And we'll also be participating in another retreat, a management team retreat on planning for the campus, and that's going to be on August 22nd, and we also look forward to that. And then on a personal note, I'd like to thank Mr. Martin for the music in the parking structure. I find it to be lovely. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Frazier.
Thank you. Very little to report. I attended the first meeting of the new session of the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. They're going to be debating a lot of interesting issues. And I was attending there with John Fraser, who is actually our regional representative for Region 7. The student trustee legislation that was going through the California legislature has changed dramatically. It is now a CSU student trustee bill. I'm not quite sure what happened. There was a bit of a magic now you see it, now you don't thing going on there, but that's okay. And so hopefully that legislation will come back in a different form. There were some disagreements with Senate Ed committee amendments versus author and constituent desire. And finally, I have been, I'm happy to announce that my colleague, Trustee Eric Vorstas, in the student trustee for Yosemite Community College District, has nominated me to the student seat on the CCCT board. So elections for that will be happening in August 16th and 17th at the student trustee workshop. So fingers crossed I will come back as a member of the state CCCT.
Wow. Okay, Trustee Thompson.
I have no announcements, but when you finish with that, I would like to make a brief statement.
When I finish?
Let everyone else make their announcements and all that, and if you would come back to me for a moment, I
Okay,
appreciate
we'll come
that.
back. Trustee Wah.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the administration, Dr. Rocha, and the assistant superintendents, Miller and Bell, and all their staff. Last weekend, we had the ICICE 8th conference, which was an international conference of the Chinese language educators, teachers. And it is the first time that they have had this conference outside of Taiwan. It's a 16-year-old conference, but the conference centers around promoting the teaching of Chinese, the Mandarin language, through the internet. And so the representatives, there were 300 educators who came from all over the world, representing 15 countries as far as South Africa, all the way Europe, Asia, Canada, United States, all over the United States. But anyway, it was a very, very successful conference. Rave reviews about PCC, what a lovely campus we had. Pasadena benefited. They bought 300 beds, so it was really successful. But, you know, when we hear that little blurb on KPCC about PCC being 21st century global college, I mean, this type of a conference really makes that real, I think. And so many people from the community had come out and really commented on just the quality of the conference and also PCC's leadership in allowing this conference to be here on the campus. So anyway, that was just really excellent, and I really wanted to thank the administration. Second is today we had our first LA County School Trustees Roundtable Collaborative between the K-12s and the community colleges, and Dr. Mann was there. But we had great representation from all over the county, and there was a lot of discussion about adult ed, but it's a chance for us to identify topics that are common to K-12 and community colleges, such as the achievement gap, concurrent enrollment, and to bring those topics to the table to come up with recommendations and issues that we can then forward to the legislators. So I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to participate and help that collaboration. And one of the consultants made an interesting comment that there is, I think there's a grant, there's a number of grant opportunities that are out there specifically for K-12 community college collaboratives. So I think it's a good opportunity. And the other thing, I attended my first CCCT meeting, and gosh, Dr. Mann, those are a lot of fun. I've been missing out. But I guess I should be reporting out on something of greater importance that came out, but I was really excited because they had a presentation by their foundation, and came to find that this foundation it does some pretty interesting things. One of the things they do is they have a volume price discount collaborative, so we can actually go onto their website, the CCCT Foundation website, and anyone with a .edu address can purchase heavily discounted software as well as office furniture. So it kind of acts like CMAS, so it's a great opportunity. But also they did an outreach for internships, and so they made the offer that they would manage internships. They would do all of the contracting for that, and we just needed to come in and help bring in people who want to do this. So I kind of put it out to the Chamber of Commerce in South Pasadena, and they thought that was a good idea. So something for Dr. Bell and maybe Dean Davila to look at. And the last thing is I attended a South Pasadena event, and they talked about this. They knew that we were having this roundtable collaborative, but they talked about wanting to really build that strong relationship, and had said that we had not had any local meetings where we've gone out into the community. And so they recommended that we look at within the next 6 months doing something in South Pasadena. So I'd like to have that considered for future agendas.
Okay, Trustee Brown.
No report today.
I'm going to skip you, Dr. Mann, because I know you've got something special. We're going to save you almost for the end, except I promised Trustee Thompson. So Trustee Baum.
Well, I do have a couple of things. When I was in Sacramento last week for the Board of Governors meeting and spending a couple of days with the Chancellor's office, first I want to report that the leadership, Eric Skinner, Linda Michalowski, and all say how much they appreciate the check-ins they get from our team Fraser, that they hear regularly from John and Simon, and for things. But they also indicated how much they appreciated the spirit of and commitment to student success in working with Dr. Bell and Mr. Miller in addressing the scheduling issue that came up, and how that they've appreciated the cooperation and the work together that this district has done to make sure that every student who may have had a problem with the calendar was actually attended to, and that we dealt with that effectively. The other significant action that we took, well, one is there is a task force on accreditation at the state chancellor, at the state level, that we're taking a look at accreditation and the number of districts that are on sanction, and why is it, and going to drill into that. But also very closely linked to accreditation is, of course, what's happening at City College of San Francisco. And we took the very painful move with trustees there present to take away the authority of that board of trustees to govern that district, because they're on a path of losing accreditation precisely because the board did not exercise its responsibility and its authority in governing the district, and therefore the district is currently facing a very precarious fiscal cliff that that now a special trustee is in place to then take the role of the Board of Trustees. And it's only happened one other time in recent memory where Compton College district trustees, their authority was taken away as a result, and the state is managing that. And I know Mr. Miller was part of the visiting team for City College of San Francisco. And it's hard when our colleagues, you're sitting with our colleagues and telling them they have lost their authority to govern that district. And we think that that was an unfortunate step, but a necessary step in order to try to save City College of San Francisco for future generations of students. And so we're working very hard on that, and I'm happy to provide additional details. But we think there is a chance to move that district forward and regain its accreditation within the next 12 months. The last thing I'll point out is since I last attended this board meeting, the board meeting here, I did announce that after 12 years, I've decided to not seek an additional term on the Board of Trustees here at PCC. But I'm encouraged, filing is open this week, that there are a number of folks have expressed interest because there is no higher calling, I believe, in public service than serving students and serving students across a broad spectrum of our society. So I am excited to see new leadership come to the board, and also very grateful for the opportunity that I've been given to serve as a member of this Board of Trustees and be a part of the history of this amazing institution. That's my report.
Gonna be really missed.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Trustee Mann and our advisory committee, and then whatever else you have.
Yeah, I gave a report to the board members. The Legislative Advocacy Committee met on July 2nd, and we came up with 3 things that I wanted to report. One was we wanted to have a system for receiving updates from the consultants that we have engaged. So it was agreed that once a month we would have a conference call with someone from Castine Associates, and that we would receive the weekly update, which Dr. Rocha receives from the Cullum Group. And we got our first weekly update today. That goes to the entire committee. We will bring anything that we think is significant to the board. And thirdly, Dr. Fellows had suggested at a couple of our meetings ago that he thought we should actually have open meetings to discuss public policy and not meet as a committee because only 3 of us can meet. But actually have an open meeting where everyone can come, not have it part of the board because there's so much business. And so what we agreed is we're recommending to the board that the board host a town hall meeting on an identified public policy issue once each semester. And we would then invite the community, the college, to come in and discuss it. And we might, for example, discuss something like adult education or an off-campus side or a large public policy issue, and that this will give everyone a chance to participate. We wouldn't have to limit only 3 board members because it would be a Brown Act meeting. And so I am suggesting that. I suggested it to Mr. Martin, and he actually has put it on the agenda that our first meeting of this kind would be on October 16th. And so I would just like to know if then that would have to take an action, but if the rest of the board would think that was a good idea and would like to participate. That would be in lieu of a study session.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
Okay,
as
that
our
was
next
my-
item.
That was my report.
Great. Mr. Thompson.
Well, first of all, I wanted to just thank Jeanette for the very good meeting and report, rather, of our legislative committee and all that, and the things that we're looking into and going to be contemplating. Dr. Rocha and I met yesterday with a couple of people who potentially provide the opportunity to help us with some grant writing. And also, I think that could be potentially extremely advantageous for us because right now we have one person trying to write all the grants, and that's just an overwhelming task that no one human being is going to be able to handle for a college this size. So the comment I wanted to make was that as I think over the evening's discussion and the debate/dialogue back and forth, it seems to me that we can kind of make a critical choice tonight. We can look back over the past year where we have debated, I think, the calendar perhaps ad nauseum, certainly more than occasionally along the way of those months, or we can look forward. And I think our challenge really, as I see it, and I hope that all of us agree, is to look forward. We have had a year of experience, or close to a year of experience, with the trimester approach. It's not perfect. We're devoted by our decision this evening to try it for one more year, and hopefully we can work together, pull together as a team, and do our very best to make that happen and get past the debates and quarrels over an issue such as that. We're all here. We proclaim, and I believe that we are sincere, we're dedicated to student success. To fulfill or to implement that dedication, I think it's time that we just come together, quit the debate, the fights, orally and otherwise, and work for the betterment of our students and their success, transfers, graduation, employment, etc. But let's focus on that. Let's not look to the past.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. We're on future board meeting dates, and you can see a long list. And there are actually what I will call 3 sub-items rolling here that I want to bring up to the board's attention. First, the August 7th and August 21st meeting, there has been some discussion about, I know Trustee Baum and I will both be out on August 7th. That still leaves 5 trustees and voting trustees, plus our student, of course. I assume everyone else is going to be good for August 7th. And I believe Trustee Fellow will be back, so we should have 5 there. So we certainly could have a business meeting if that meets the needs of the college, or we could just basically have one meeting on August 21st that is a regular business meeting where I believe we'll be at full board capacity. So that's one topic we're going to ask you to think about here just for a minute, and we'll discuss. Secondly, you heard from Trustee Mann. We've got a date here for our legislative advocacy town hall meeting. I think we can let future board presidents work through different semesters, but we'll at least have one on here if everybody agrees with that. And finally, you can see that we have an outreach, we had an outreach opportunity plan. Where was that? Help me.
Not here.
On the, what date? I'm not.
You had it for the 24th.
I had it for
the 21st or whatever
the
that
21st.
was. Yes.
Oh, yeah, until this issue came up where we're not going to be there, because I wanted to encourage other, outreach opportunities comparable to, I know Trustee Brown was working on something, Trustee Waugh commented. So maybe in November or something we can try to facilitate one of those. And so I'd say to some of the trustees in a reach out, if you have a place you'd like us to meet, or if there's a place where a satellite cafe a la somehow services need to be there or something, talk to me. We're open to that. We're trying to get out and do that. So I think we'll just kind of take them in that order. Do you want to continue with our August 7th meeting? And it sounds like there may be some business that we may need to conduct on the 21st, irrespective if we do have an August 7th meeting. That's what I was sensing from you.
Well, of course, I defer to the wish of the board, but from a administrative point of view, it would be just fine with us if we did not meet on August 7th and pushed our next regular business meeting to the 21st. That, first of all, we too have a lot of people on vacation, and that would give us to the 25th is actually the week before school starts, and give us an opportunity to do a lot of the normal just before year school business and get it to you in a timely way. So if the board decided not to do the 7th, but and do away with that and go to the 21st, that would be just fine with us.
Okay, maybe the best thing would just be to see if there's someone interested in making a motion to cancel, because that's a regular business meeting, it's already scheduled, we need a motion to cancel it. There's
I'll
a
second.
motion and a second to cancel August 7th, and we'll discuss that. Go ahead, Dr. Mann.
No,
You're ready to vote.
I'm getting ready to
Is there a
vote.
discussion? Anyone? Okay, Trustee Thompson.
Well, I find this to be somewhat frustrating to face issues like this. I mean, here we are at 10:30 in the evening, and we've had to skip a couple of items, and because we are tired or don't have time or whatever to thoughtfully address them. And yet, the very next breath almost, we're talking about canceling meetings. And it's hard for me to reconcile those two actions. And so we, as a board, take responsibility for certain things that have been done, and properly so, but I don't think we're fulfilling our obligations to the public or to the college and to our students by not having our board meetings. So I would be in favor of sticking with August 7th and August 21st and moving forward as we typically would do, and I believe we ought to do.
Okay. Trustee Baum?
My request would just simply be that if there's significant business to discuss, that business be held for the August 21st meeting. And given that I'm not going to be able to be present for August 7th as you are, I think it's up to the board whether we want to keep that meeting as on the schedule in case something comes up, or for a study session. But it's my understanding there might be a number of things that we are intending to act upon that I would ask my colleagues to consider holding that till we have a full set of board members present.
Okay, anyone else wish to discuss? Okay, we'll vote. The motion is to cancel the August 7th meeting, so an affirmative vote would cancel the meeting and a negative vote would retain the meeting. Advisory vote is abstaining, and remainder of the board?
What are we doing?
Green is we're canceling. Okay, so we will cancel August 7th and make August 21st regular business meeting. And then I think the rest of this is going to continue, and you can see that I've got on here the Dr. Mann and the committee's request. And so barring a board motion or something to do something different, I think we're going to move forward with that schedule. Okay? We're at future agenda items. I'm going to ask Trustee Wah, you kind of slipped something in there with the announcements on a future agenda item. Could you restate that for us? I kind of missed it. Was it just the location thing that you were? Okay, so we're going to get, hopefully, we want to do that, so.
And what they'd really like is not, I know that in the past, we've just come and presented to them, but they'd really like to sit down and do a collaborative discussion one-on-one. So more like a study session that we would have among ourselves, but jointly with them.
And I think what we have attempted to do with each of these, as you have seen, is make them location unique. So when we went to Pasadena, the focus of the meeting was on what are we doing with Pasadena Unified. When we went to Rosemead, we specifically reached out and said, what is it you're looking for? So we would love to do that, South Pass San Marino, love to do it in all the other areas on whatever topics you're, kind of let you be a big part of connecting with who we want to connect and how to do that.
Okay, so the format would be, okay.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, if you've looked at what we've done, we've tried to tailor the location, the agenda, and the format to accommodate what it is that district or that area was looking for, or the trustee in that district area was looking for. So we're happy to work with you on that. And if not me, I'm sure the next president. Trustee Frazier.
I just think I'd like to see a technology update, just where we are, how the progress is going with Lancer Point, where the rollout is, and what our next milestones are. And then after that, I don't think it needs to be a full item, maybe just some sort of written report that goes along with the president's report on the complaint in public comment about the CEC and the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm sure Dr. Rocha and Dr. Mann are going to be all over that one. There's a deep history there where we spend an enormous amount of effort working with that community, so that's, I'm confident it's going to happen.
And we've been quite responsive to that gentleman.
Yes, we
Okay, and
have.
the issue is our students who are not doing what they supposed to be doing. But we
Yeah.
have not ignored the gentleman. We are on it.
Yeah, so I know that one's going to happen. The technology one, we were actually almost powering it down because we were getting so much there for a while, and then we kind of looked to the committee to run a little more point on that with the Lancer point and some of that, because you weren't the trustee at the time, but we were getting this multicolored book of every dollar and dime and things.
Yeah, and
But we
actually,
can certainly
you'll have that multicolored book again at the next meeting, and also we're scheduled with Trustee Waugh in the next week or so, I believe, for a I think it's something on the calendar. I thought it was. Anyway, we're trying to reschedule it, but the bottom line is we're going to get Trustee Waugh up to speed, and also we can do the same thing
and
for
that
Trustee
committee,
Frazier.
and then there could be just a short report from
Absolutely, for
that
the
committee,
technology
kind of
committee.
looping us in, I think is the way we'd like to get to your particular need. Okay?
That's fine.
Uh-huh. Okay, Trustee Thompson.
Yes, I'd like to have a item on the agenda, ideally, I suppose, August 21st, that would deal with the San Gabriel Valley Small Business Development Center that have obtained a federal grant through Congresswoman Judy Chu, and along with that, passing his application to California's Innovation Hub Initiative. I'm not quite certain what that is, but I was reading Dr. Bell's report back in June, a meeting I missed, and I'd like to put that on the agenda and be able to talk about both of those topics because they are important. There is an organization called Innovate Pasadena that's been started. They had the initial public gathering of that about 3 weeks ago, and it was just over at the old Twin Palms restaurant, which is reopened. In fact, it reopened that evening. But it was amazing. There were probably 250 or 300 people there for that event, including Wendy Johnson and others from Pasadena Bioscience Collaborative and PCC. So I think it's timely to talk about that. There are issues that are going to be associated with that we need to be aware of and address as we get before we get too far into it and move along. So I'd like to have that as an item, ideally on the August 21st meeting.
We'll just have to see with everything else. I can't guarantee a meeting, but which meeting, but we definitely will get it on the list and work towards that. I wanted to thank you, President Cairo, for the smoking policy, because I get banged continuously by board. Why isn't that we want to vote on that, we're chomping at the bit. So I appreciate you moving that through as fast and timely as you did, because we're looking forward to getting that here through the system, and
We'll move that through shared governance.
that we want and we're waiting for. And that was one you can't blame him, you got to blame us, because they were like, man, we're already ready to vote. And I'm like, no, we're going to try to do this right.
Thank you very much.
So I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you. Joe Bushko deserves all the credit. She spearheaded the campaign. She obtained all the data to provide for the academic senate, so she did a tremendous effort.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Okay, they said it couldn't be done.
Wait.
I told you, they said it couldn't be
I
done.
was just saying,
Yeah, go ahead.
it's a procedural thing, but I'd love to get in the packet a list of the items that are in the pipeline on the agenda, so that I would know whether to request something or not.
Okay, we will reincarnate the multicolored list of what's on the agenda. Won't we?
We will.
We will. Okay. We are going to recess into a second closed session with no action to follow. And if the life forms don't come out in a few minutes, start rocking the building, because that means our heads are on the table. So I appreciate everybody here tonight. Thank you.